Here, let's go to the morning prayer. Father God, we thank you, Lord, for this morning, God. We thank you, Father, for the blessing, Lord, of having the government that we have in this great nation, Lord God. We just lift each of our commissioners up to you, Father, and pray that you give us wisdom and guidance as we handle this agenda this morning, Lord God. May it be for the good of the people, Lord God, and a strong representation for the will of the people, Lord. Father, we thank you, Lord, for the rain that we had, Lord God. We just pray, God, for just a little bit more growth through this season, Lord, that we can grow some grass before it gets cold on us, Lord. And we pray for our ranchers and our farmers and those that depend on the land to make a living. Father, we just pray, God, that you move with us through this meeting, Lord, again, and just give us grace and humility, Lord God, to respect one another and to honor you as we thank you, Father, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Commissioner Reed, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico as a symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
All right, at this time, I'd like to make a motion of approval of the agenda, the consent agenda items. Could I get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye. At this time, we're also, oh, wait a minute. Everybody vote?
Yeah,
Okay.
I did.
At this time, we're going to pull items 6 and 8. So we might as well go to 6 and get it. Consent agenda, excuse me. Consent agenda item number 6, request approval of resolution number 09-10-20/109-13 to sell surplus property through an online auction service with the Gov Deals. Ginger submitted this. I don't think Ginger's here.
They pulled one of your items. The Gov Deals. We need you back here. Thanks. She's on her way.
Okay. So I tell you what, well, she's on 8 too.
Yeah, I'd like it pulled. As far as what all stuff are we looking at auctioning off?
I don't know what's currently on the list,
okay.
but it's everything from old computers, chairs, desks, vehicles,
Okay.
just everything that Mr. Caroli had quite a bit
Sure.
out there at the old EOC, and we're trying to get rid of it.
Sure.
There's right now, what I'm seeing is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 old vehicles.
Yeah.
Most of them are obsolete, worn out, no transmission.
Sure. The reason why I wanted to pull it is to see if is there possibility for any kind of preference as far as people inside the county being able to, I mean, could we have an auction where maybe equipment or vehicles or anything that we need that we're going to auction, if we could do that, where we could give the people of the county preference before we just open it up for
I'm not aware if we can do that or not. That's definitely a question for Ginger.
Okay, there she is. We're talking about you, Ginger. Sorry to pull you out of your office. We were looking through this and on the auction surplus stuff. I just wonder if we could do something where we could give the people of the county preference as far as being able to have first shot at some of this stuff before we just open it up for anybody to bid on it, and then.
No, you can't do that.
There's not.
They can get on and bid on it on the website of that gov.deals,
Sure.
but you can't.
We can't do it just inside the county first, and then maybe put a reserve on everything.
No, you cannot.
No. Okay.
And the only way you're going to do that is if you actually hire an auctioneer and go have an auction right here somewhere.
Yeah.
And then everybody can come and.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. That's typically the way these deals usually, I mean, in years past, isn't it typically
It
an
is
auction style?
when we had a lot of stuff, but now we just have a little stuff that they get together and throw on, so it's not worth paying. And if you don't have a lot of an auctioneer, he gets a percentage of it, and he's gonna be like, oh,
Sure.
sorry, I'm not gonna make any money off that.
Okay. Can we put it on the gov? I guess we could put it on the gov deals too, but can we sell, if we were to park some of that stuff out there where people from the area maybe needed an old pickup or something that they could go look at some stuff, could we also allow people to go out and look at it and yeah, Tom?
Actually, we do make arrangements if people want to come look at the vehicles and stuff, so they can look at it.
Yeah,
Okay.
if they wanna get on there and bid, and then it's no different than people coming down here from El Paso or Mexico, and that's who used to buy a lot of our cars, is Mexico.
See, and that's why I would like to make it, I'd like to give the people of the county preference where they could have maybe a little bit
Yeah,
better.
I understand, but you can't.
Okay, well,
Not allowed.
all right,
Okay.
well, that sounds like government to me.
Yeah.
Ginger, you
Thank-
might as well stay there.
Thank you,
Okay, got
Jim.
another?
Number 8. All right, request to approval. Any other discussion on item 6?
No.
All right, could I request to approval of resolution 09-10-20/109-13 to sell surplus property through an online auction service with governmental deals?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye. Okay, Ginger, it'd be consent agenda item 8, request approval to award seal bid 21-004 chip spreader for the road department, award to Sierra Machinery out of El Paso, Texas, for the amount of $251,841.
Yeah, I just wanted this pooled, and I guess, it's already been agreed upon in the budget hearing meeting, so I guess it's already gonna go through, but, I just, it's a lot of money to spend on a piece of equipment and with things that are so tight right now too. And, as I visited with Tom the other day, I would like to see a lot more of these contracts go off into the private sector instead of the county buying a lot of machines to do paving work and stuff with. And I mean, I think as far as doing these projects, say a paving project, if we were to be more focused on local contractors to do this kind of work, whenever we cut a check, we're going to get 8.5% back right off the top if it's a preference to a local contractor, and then we're employing local construction companies, and the government isn't growing and doing everything. I mean, if we're truly to be Republicans and truly to be for limited government, then we should be more focused in the private sector. I mean, that's what socialists do. That's what communists. Communists, the government goes and builds all the roads and infrastructures and everything. America's supposed to be, more bent towards private contractors. And I'm not, I mean, I know that this has already moved through. I don't like the direction that the county's going right here by buying all this road equipment and stuff and doing all these build-out projects. I think that we have our hands, I think our county road department has enough on our plate by maintaining the roads that we already have on our schedule, I think that we could probably do a better job at that. So, but I guess pretty much I just wanted to begin to sow that seed, and I'd like to see maybe the county look more towards private contractors and go. And I know we are on the bridge, and I know we are on, but I feel like that should be our focus.
Well, I can tell you one thing, Commissioner Griffin, they used to, I don't know what it is right now, but in the past, there was only one contractor locally that had a chip machine,
Sure.
which was Tommy Joe Blankenship, and I don't even think he's in business anymore. So for that item right there, most of your locals don't want anything to do with that to begin with, on the chip seal
Yeah.
part of it. When you go into chip seal, some of these little obsolete roads way off somewhere, I really feel, my experience through the contracting business is you may get your 8.5% back, but it's still gonna cost us way more than what if the county would have done. So I have a little bit of different agreements with you on that part of it. We have one project coming up that the county is gonna do part of it, and then we are gonna step out part of it.
Sure.
And we'll discuss that as on an item today. That's just my own opinion on that. I don't think I don't know if, are you insinuating get rid of the road department?
I'm not insinuating get rid of them, but I would like to see, instead of our government grow, I would like to see it draw back a little bit, you know? I mean, that is, I mean, if we truly are for limited government, then yeah, I would like to see more stuff move over into the private contractor side. I'd like to see more contracts and less government work, you know?
Well, our road department is kind of like our maintenance, I feel, this is my own opinion,
Sure.
like our maintenance just here on the building. You don't want to call somebody to come change a light bulb out. It's going to cost you an arm and a leg to come down here when we have the people to do it. An example for in the wintertime when it snows, if we start eliminating our road department, who's going to go plow that road? There's things, yes, if some of these projects, or if we can't handle it, I agree with you, bid them out to a company that can do it and do it right. As far as hiring the locals, the people that work for the road department, they are our locals.
Sure.
I do not want to cost any one of their jobs. We're kind of undermanned anyway, in my opinion, but that's just my
I
opinion.
know, but my opinion on the big picture too is, yeah, it does cost a little bit more, but you know, if you take a company like, you know, a paving company, you know, probably the scale wages are probably higher inside of that company, and I'm not saying take anybody's jobs away from them. The work's gonna still be there, but I would just, I mean, in the best case scenario, I would rather see some of these guys that work for the road department be able to have their own little contracts and their own couple little pieces of equipment, and be able to contract and maintain a little section of roads, or to do work for the county, where it's more, it's just, it's all of our, I think, just our vision for government, you know? I mean, do we focus more to try to support the private sector, or do we just grow the government till pretty soon we're just full on socialists and the government's just doing everything for everybody, you know? I mean, I don't know. And you know, if you do have little maintenance, I mean, yeah, we do have maintenance people, but even that could be done by private contracts, you know? I mean, I don't know.
Well, I can assure you, I've been around here for, well, pretty much my whole life, and I've seen a lot of the roads that were chipped, these subdivisions that came in, and they were terrible. The best chip job road that I've seen out of all the contractors that have been around here that has done it has been the one out of our road department.
Sure.
And I'm not just saying that
Sure.
right now, but
Sure.
I can guarantee that was like 4 years ago, and you can go out there right now and it still looks like it did brand new. The ones I'm talking about did not last a year.
Yeah.
And they fell totally
Yeah.
apart.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I'm not trying to go to war with the road department, and I appreciate you guys, and I know that they work hard out there and do a good job. I'm just on the big picture of it, though. I just like to see more private contracts, you know. I just like to see, I wish we had more, if there was more work inside the county for private contractors, then maybe there would be more private contractors, you know? I mean, I think that's how we build a lot stronger and healthier of an economy inside of the county, is by investing in the private sector and not so much the government do everything. That's just my 2 cents, and that's why I wanted to pull this agenda item and speak on it. It's just I wish that we had more of a focus in the future, have more of a focus on supporting local contractors instead of the county, the state, or the cities doing all of the work, you know.
The problem with that is there's no guarantee if we put a lot of these out to bid that the locals will get it. If
Yeah.
you have
There is no
another
guarantee.
contractor
But we
come
can
in-
make, if we were to do can we make it preference inside county preference, and then, no?
You can if you go through, I think there are some counties that have like a 5% preference that, somehow it goes through the commission, and you guys approve it and say that any county, you know, business within the county has a, you know, can get like a 5%. There are
Sure.
counties that's doing that, but 5%'s not a lot.
See, I mean,
And your bigger
Yeah.
ones, they can come in and just take over because they can afford that, where the little guys can't.
Sure. Yeah, I just was thinking the other day, I mean, it just like say, like maybe if Tom has some roads down on the south end of Otero Mesa that's really a long stretch for the county to be able to go down there and maintain, maybe there's a guy that lives down there on that end of the county that wants to invest in a blade and a few little pieces of equipment, and we can contract with them, and then they have an opportunity to make more money at the end of the day and own their own business and have a, you know, I mean, that's just more my vision, you know, but.
Yeah, unfortunately, government doesn't work that way. Especially
Yes, ma'am.
procurement.
I think also too, because we're supposed to be making sure that the taxpayer dollars stretch as far as they can, that we typically go with the person most qualified for the least amount of money. And typically, in this particular scenario, it turns out to be that doing it ourselves is a lot less expensive than contracting it, even if that were the policy. And so you can get more stuff done if you pay less per project. And I think that's kind of why it's gone that way at this point.
But it's easy to say that it's cheaper for us to do it, but really, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you're gonna hire somebody on the out, because of the way it works, you gotta pay that wage rates. We don't pay our guys to do that job, and you have to pay
Yeah.
that wage rates.
And see, in that way, if it was done in the private sector, then we would have to pay those guys more, and the guys that are working at the road department would be making more money than making what they're making right now. And then we would operate inside of our what we could afford, you know. I mean, if we had a budget, then we just award contracts, and we pay with what we can afford, and we operate inside of our means, instead of right now, we don't even know what's going to happen next year with the state of New Mexico. Is there going to be any money at all? You know, I mean, there might not be any funding for anything by the time the budgets come in. So, you know, if you were doing it simply solely off of contracts, then you wouldn't ever be faced with the great burden of funding, you know, a very expensive department that we might not be able to fund next year. Who knows? My 2 cents.
Any other discussion on item number 8? All right, at this time, I request approval to award sealed bid 21-004 chip spreader for the road department. Award to Sierra Machinery, El Paso, Texas, for the amount $251,841.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you, Jim.
All right, well, let's move back to Consent agenda item number 1. Request approval on August 20th, 2020 regular meeting minutes. Consent agenda item 2. Request approval of accounts payable bills list BL number 6, BL number 7, BL number 8, and BL number 9. Consent agenda item 3. Request approval of healthcare assistance claims, deposition claims for September 2020. Consent agenda item number 4, request approval of resolution number 09-10-20/109-09, an agreement between Otero County and New Mexico Department of Transportation for the construction of low water crossing in the amount of $578,500. Consent agenda number 5, request approval of resolution number 09-10-20/109/10, budget adjustment. Carry forward fiscal year 20 to fiscal year 21. Consent agenda item number 7, request approval to award seal bid 20-027 Riata Road, La Luz Creek Bridge to Haas Contracting Company, Albuquerque, New Mexico, for the amount of $2,957,317.09. This includes taxes. Consent agenda number 9, request approval of subcontract agreement between Otero County and the Counseling Center to provide Juvenile Justice Board coordinating service for the fiscal year 21. Consent agenda number 10, request approval of agreement between Otero County and the DFA for CARES Act funding. At this time, can I get a second for approval?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. At this time, we'll go to item number 11, scheduled citizen communication. Gwyneth, would you like to come up front?
Oh, yes, I'm back again.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing
You're doing?
pretty good. Yeah. Lots of rain last night, and that was good. Did the commissioners, oh, good morning.
Good morning.
Did you receive an email, each one of you, from Mr. Lamprey after the last meeting?
Well,
Did you?
I've received it and reviewed it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah.
And any comments? Should I?
At this time, if you have any questions on it, I'd like to turn it over to Michael, because it is between those two. And now there is a third party in it. I don't know if you're aware that there is a third party attorney that has been hired from the county to address this item.
Well, that attorney, is that Ms. Woods?
Yes.
This is still outside, she's in Las Cruces, right?
Correct.
So we are still paying outside attorneys
Yes,
for
ma'am.
this.
Yes, ma'am.
And the money goes on. It was over $5,000 the last count that I had of it, so now it must be considerably more. Is this a new Las Cruces attorney?
This is the same firm
The same.
that,
Okay, I do have would it be proper for me to read this letter from Mr. Lamprey
Yes,
after
ma'am.
that last meeting?
Go ahead.
And this went out to each of the commissioners. And this is from Mr. Lamprey. Otero County Commissioners, celebration of success and progress on resolving the issue of the county revolving through the accusation of my property for the Riata Road Bridge construction may be premature, and at best at a cost of yet another clear case of misstatement and defamation of my character. Yesterday, I was sent a link to a video of a portion of the Otero County monthly meeting in which Mr. Eiselman apparently read a letter to the commissioners and Mrs. Reese for the record regarding the status of the proposed Riata Road Bridge. I was extremely disappointed that Mr. Eiselman has once again apparently willfully misled and again made patently false statements in claiming that I am the current reason for yet another delay or that he was awaiting my actions. Mr. Eiselman stated he is awaiting a response from me to close this matter on 2 elements. In fact, I have, as can be verified by the email chain below, seen extremely responsive to Mr. Eiselman. Furthermore, at this point, it was at the point of Mr. Eiselman's statement yesterday in his stated memo to the commissioners that it is Mr. Eiselman who owes me the right-of-way documentation. I have agreed to his latest language on the deed. I would urge each of you to read the full email chain, as I believe it will clearly show that I am not the source of delay and that I currently do not believe I owe Mr. Eiselman, Otero County, anything at this point. As for the property taxes exemption, we have previously agreed to allow Mr. Eiselman to deduct any taxes from the sale. I can verify this from Mr. Eiselman's own email to my attorney. If and when the language and the easement were provided as stipulated in the agreement, all other sundry documents would be executed upon closing. Mr. Eiselman's actions have now far exceeded any reasonable expectations of professionalism and integrity, to which I believe have been much of the root cause of this entire fiasco. Mr. Eiselman is now once again on record misled, or possibly worse, intentionally lied to the Otero County Commissioner and made wrongfully claim that I am the reason for delay and defame me in public, possibly to cover the fact of his own shortcomings. I am perfectly willing to present the evidence of my case in a court of law in pursuit of having this matter resolved. I therefore base on Mr. Eiselman's action and retracting my offer to sell the property to Otero County, at least as long as Mr. Eiselman is even remotely involved. I can only pray that the county commissioners take whatever action is necessary in order to bring the integrity and professionalism back to the very important role of the county attorney's office. Sincerely, Lacey Lamprey. This is his letter to
Yes, ma'am.
What went on at the last meeting.
Yes, ma'am. And I had one question, because this, him holding up is an easement question. My understanding, he was asking for a 50-foot easement, 50-foot right-of-way easement. I asked the attorney, is that road even have that much of an easement? So my next question would be to Mr. Porter, and I'm just trying to clarify that we could even give, because my understanding that is a highway regulation easement. Tom, do you know what the easement is on that Riata Road?
No, I don't. I know our standard is 60 foot, 30 foot from center to center to south is our standard. I'm not sure if Riata had that.
Okay, so that right there is my biggest question going on his language on that part is
Okay, on that, this is from Lacey to Mr. Eiselman. The language of the proposed deed would be acceptable upon amended to include or provide under separate document a sufficiently defined 50-foot right-of-way similar to that of the Lawless Gate Road easement sample provided. So, all of this goes on, and I don't think what he's asking for is out of line. I mean, this 50 foot would give him the right of way to his land.
Yes, ma'am. The only thing is I just would like to know what is the easement for Riata Road? And that's my question I've been asking. What is the easement? What is for the rest of Riata Road? I can't consider Lawless Gate Road, because that easement, if you look where those fences are off of the Lawless Gate Road, they're way more than 50 feet off the center line. So I don't know what their easements are there. So if Riata Road is a 30-foot easement or a 40-foot easement off the center, that's all that I feel legally we can give. If you look at the property pins out there, when at the bridge where they're wanting to go, you'll see not his property, but the property to the north of him. There's a T-post right there on his corner. When I was out there, I don't feel that that's 50 foot. So from the center line to there, so it's his easement into his property. Do you see what I'm saying? I just want to make sure.
And he doesn't want, and he has stated that, you know, that property, the other property is very close to where his is and to where the gentleman that owns to the north.
And exactly. And we've all agreed to make sure we give him ample easement to be able to get into his piece of property right there. Regardless of what the easement is, he's still going to be able to get in to his piece of property.
Since last meeting, the only person, according to what he has told me, has his only person that he has been in contact is Ms. Wood, the lawyer that evidently is being hired by the county. He has not been in touch with you, has he? He says he has not been in touch with you at all.
I have not communicated with him. The message you just read, he asked me to not be involved. That's why Ms. Woods is handling things.
Okay. We supposedly the bridge project is going to start in November.
November
Correct?
29th?
30th.
30th?
30th? So,
And we did vote on approving the contract
Right.
earlier today.
right. So,
We're going to get on with the bridge. We'll get this, we're going to get this lined out, surely, because you've been involved in this way longer than what I have. And I understand your feelings on it, and I want it to be put to bed too. Just probably not as much as you do, but I do.
I don't think that probably everybody in Alamogordo even has any idea what the impact that this bridge can do to this county, to this whole area, to Texas. I mean, the people that are coming through here. It's when the McGinn thing happened and 5470 was closed off, the only road access to go, say, to Tularosa was taking Riata Road.
Yes, ma'am.
If that ditch had been, either time, had been full of water, like it was when the woman and her child were killed in it, they would not have been, all that traffic would have been backed up. This is one of the most important roads that I've been involved with this for years. So this is one of the most important roads as far as bridges, as far as I'm concerned.
And I agree with you 100% on the safety deal. And I'm really surprised when they rerouted because of the flooding and stuff like that, that ditch wasn't running at that time. And I agree with you 100% on the safety. When that water comes through there, it does come through there.
When they were building 54, and they started putting the bridges up on 5470, the big trailers that had the pulling big loads could not pass when those bridges were built on 5470. So all that traffic had to come down Riata Road. All those big things. So what did the county do? The road department went out there and laid this, and you've seen it, that big concrete thing. That's the only way that you could get those big tractors pulling motorhomes or whatever through, as long as they were building those bridges on 54 and 70. So there is another thing, that the only way that the traffic could go with a heavy loads was down Riata Road. This has happened over and over again. If you come up to that ditch and it is running full, you have to turn around and go back and go the long way around. I was scared this morning when I came out. The ditch had run, but it had run down enough that it was very little in it.
Yes, ma'am, I understand your concern. I'm 100% with you on the safety part, and I want to get this thing going again, like I said, not as bad as you, but.
It has been going on forever.
It was going on when I was sitting in the audience before I ever became a commissioner.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I want to put this to rest, believe me.
It's been approved. It was approved the last sitting commissioners. Ms. Bees was here,
Yeah.
and it was approved then. And it is still going on and on and on. And every time a problem comes up, it just, it takes time, it takes time. It takes damn common sense. You tell me that you can't address a problem with two people and solve the problem. You might have differences, but if you can show why it should be that way, then it should not take years to get this done. Even Mr. Lamprey has been addressing this since 18.
I agree with you.
So this is not just happening. This has been going on and on and on. I've been living out there since 1985. And I don't know how many times I've come up to that ditch and had to go around. The day that the woman and her child were killed, I pulled up to that ditch and I knew darn good and well I couldn't go through there. And I left and went around. They didn't see it as important. I thought they could go through it. And they ended up dead. So there's a lot of common sense that goes into any operation, and that is where exactly this should be. There shouldn't be all this. If two people can't sit down and figure out, if you'd brought Mr. Lamprey in here, the only reason he got here is because I asked for his address and his name, and I got him in here. So put some common sense into this stuff and sit down and figure out what the heck needs to be done, and it's not that much that Mr. Lamprey is asking.
I am with you on this 100%. The only thing is, when it goes through a governmental process, there's steps by steps by steps.
Oh, yes.
I've lived my whole life doing the same thing you
Yeah.
just said. Two people sit down and make an agreement and do it. I'm still learning that process right here, believe me. But all I can tell you is that we are trying to get it done as quick as we can. Believe me, I am pushing it. I want this thing done. I really do. I want the agreement between the landowner and the county settled and done so we can move on.
You call Mr. Lamprey on the telephone. All of you, get a telephone conference going and talk to him. And he will tell you what his priority is. He will tell you, and he wants it built too.
Well, I understand.
You know, but the thing of it, get a telephone conversation with him. I talked to him on the phone this morning. You know, and talk to him personally. You talked to him here when he came to this meeting. You can talk to him.
Okay. Tom, can you find out what that easement is on Riata? We will get it settled. He has a check sitting on his desk waiting for it.
I realize that. And what was in all the things that was written in there was not in agreement with Mr. Lamprey. He is, if you go back through the emails, you can see exactly.
But
What?
it's boiled down to the one thing right now. My understanding is the easement, the size of the easement. And that's what he's not signing off on. This is my understanding, is what, if he would turn in the release, sign in that last little paperwork, that check is ready to go into his hand or in the
Why
mail.
on earth doesn't the county know what the easements are on every piece of land? There's a 30-foot easement across the ditch that I had to have dug because my place was flooding because of stupidity that the county did. So there's a 30-foot easement there. You think that everybody down Riata Road with all the work that's been done down there that they don't know? Tom, you don't know what the easement is?
He just left. I'm sure he's going to go find out that answer right now.
I mean, that ditch that they dug to prevent where they turned the water down my ditch, they cut the water going south and turned it west to come down my ditch. So then the land down there, that subdivision that they've got now, and I'm sure you've seen it,
Yes, ma'am.
that land was always flooded. Every time it rained, a heavy, heavy rain, it flooded, especially when the water was going south, more. Well, when they cut it off and turned it west, it still did not stop the flooding. So what did they do? The county come and built that big berm there. You see that berm?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that was to prevent the water from going onto that land. And why? I had Tim McGinn come out, and he said, well, I can't come. I said, yes, you need to come when the water's running. He came out there and looked. His answer was, I can't undo what the good old boys did. You know, this whole thing, anytime that the county does something, did they come and ask me what my problem was going to be when they changed the water to come down my lane? No. Down my property, it cost me $2,800 the last time I had the ditch dug. It cost me $1,300 the first time. But they couldn't come onto my land and do that, dig that ditch out, because it's on private property. We can't do nothing on private property, but they built that berm to protect private property on that subdivision they made.
Gwen, that was, I'm not bailing out, throwing in the towel on this. But this was
I'm just
before
telling,
my time, and
I'm
I don't-
telling you the history where if somebody wants something done, oh yeah, well yeah, this guy needs that done. And then not go and ask the people that's going to be affected by it. Don't look at the situation of what it's going to cost. This happens all the time, and there is a law in New Mexico
And
that
what's
says if you've got water running onto your land, you cannot do anything to get rid of that water. That's a law that's on the books. But
Yes, ma'am, but when that law reads, when that water runs onto your property and runs off of your property, the law reads you cannot divert it to where it runs off to somebody. But the water that runs on is going to run off somewhere. It's going to run off onto somebody else's property.
and that's the way that the land is. But the law was put into effect. All the houses that had been built on Riata Road to the north of my road, all that land that used to have water flowing on it. So when they built the houses, they directed it off and they dug a ditch the side and then another ditch. And where did all that water go now? It goes
gonna go
right
somewhere.
down through my ditch that I had to spend money to build the berm up. When I first moved in there, I could walk out and look down in the ditch. I could walk down in the ditch up the other side. There's no way that I could do that now because my ditch is up about 5 feet.
Yes, ma'am.
That I had to have that dug out in order to keep from my land from flooding.
And I can assure you, your land is not the only land that's involvement is happening.
Oh,
You take south toward Bowles Acres through all those subdivisions where they've routed all those arroyos. They just keep
but
pointing
I'm
south.
telling you this, if the county does something and they in order to divert water from somebody else's land, then they should at least say, well, I mean, this was the problem that the county did, not Ms. Reese. She didn't cause that problem. The county caused it because they redirected the water that's coming down, and everybody north of me until you get to the next ditch. All that water that comes off that land is now coming down my ditch.
Pamela, wasn't this the area where BLM did some work and did something, or is this a different?
There were 2 arroyos that BLM allowed us to do some work on. I don't remember what they're called right now. Tom hasn't come back. Tom would remember, or Matt. So Office of Emergency Services and the Road Department worked on those, but I can't tell you the name of them right now.
I'm sorry, I got off on this because when we're talking about things that have been happening with Riata Road, and this is another, it's just another mind-boggling thing as to why this small thing can't be addressed with Mr. Lamprey and get this done, and so that on the 30th of November it can be.
It's going to start now.
You know, so I guess you've had enough of me.
No, ma'am, not really. I kind of enjoy
But-
seeing you every time.
Right. I will be back next month.
What?
You can put me on the agenda.
All right. That was the only item on the scheduled citizen communications, correct? Okay, item 12, we'll go to the unscheduled citizen communications. Do we have a list of?
No, Mr. John Bell is here though, and he would like to speak.
Okay.
Morning, John.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Doing good. Everybody okay this morning?
Yes, sir.
Doing good.
I'm John Bell. I'm the president of the Weed Community Association, and I just wanted to tell you that I've had a lot of people call me about when we were talking about closing the voting areas there in Weed and Pinon.
1 second.
And so,
Robin, if you will, you probably got to pay attention to John. Go ahead, John.
yeah. But I understand yesterday, I think we got that kind of worked out, so I want to thank you for allowing us to vote in Weed and Pinon. We feel a lot, our community, our citizens, we got a lot of older retired people that don't travel well, and they feel safer voting in our communities. We are pretty isolated, so we don't have the same pandemic problems that everybody else seems to face. I mean, it's potential, but it's I see more cows than I do people, so anyway, that works pretty good for me. And so they had been very concerned about driving even to Cloudcroft or to Alamo to try to vote, and we appreciate the fact that I think that's been handled. Is that correct?
The email I got yesterday also opened up, correct me if I'm wrong, Robin, was that there was several of those that they were going to close that did open back up to where they are.
Can I address
Yes.
this?
Yeah.
Thank you.
How are you? So I don't know where I should be, but.
Yeah, you're fine.
So anyway, I know you all are aware of the special session that we had.
Right.
In Senate Bill 4 that was
Yes.
passed.
Yeah.
Well, that changed the procedure for this election.
Correct.
Which meant that all the voting convenience centers were voting convenience centers, and then the rural precincts were to be mail ballot precincts. And that's what we ran with.
Right.
I was the one that presented to the commission the amended resolution to do that because I was following the law.
The guidelines, yeah.
As we went further and I heard more from you all, and I'm very happy that I did,
Thank you.
I started investigating more. Matt Clark with our emergency service has done a wonderful job with all of the fire stations.
Right.
Now they are all up to spec with Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi, yeah.
So that made it where
option.
we could do it now. I secured all the equipment through our vendors,
Okay.
through the Secretary of State's office.
Good.
And just as of yesterday, I believe after I talked to your wife, and I just said, okay, we're just opening them all back up.
Good.
With the exception, we'll still have high rolls. But the way that I'm looking at this, it looks like this is going to be a trend of the future. I think everything, because they want everything electronic. They want everything done electronically, so we have results instantaneously
Yeah.
when we have that. So I think this is a trend of the future, so I think this is gonna be how it's gonna be. We'll still have the polling places at each one of your precincts.
Good.
However, there'll be a ballot on demand system, the computer system. So,
Okay.
anyway, I wanted to take the monkey off their back. It was not them. It was me that brought them the resolution that I felt, was put on me by the special session. And at this point, I have another amended resolution that will be here in October, since I didn't make the cutoff date.
Cutoff date, okay.
Right, so we have to have it, but I'm good with Secretary of State's office. Thank God, I'm doing good. I think I'm good with everybody right now. So anyway, I brought out some handouts for you guys to take. This lists all of our early voting sites, all of our election day voting sites, all the dates and times. So,
Well, thank you very much. We
absolutely.
appreciate you.
Do you guys have any other questions?
Oh, I just wanted to make sure we knew that, when Trump got elected, it wound up being that rural America really wound up changing that vote. I remember when Lori got elected, the vote got changed because we voted en masse for Lori. So we've had, it may seem like it's small, but we've had pretty significant impact. on a lot of things.
You're exactly right.
Cloudcroft, when they passed their, they were trying to do not a budget, a bond.
A bond?
They had lost in Cloudcroft, but we voted in such numbers that we changed.
In the
vote,
rural
and it got
areas.
approved because opinion, we voted for it in a significant way. So it's just important, and our people just feel a lot safer being able to do that. They do not want to. I have an aunt that is 87 years old, I think, anyway. She said she can't drive the Cloudcroft. I've listened to her. I've listened to a lot of people.
Right. No, I understand. Well, and see, it was what I understood was that it was just for this election.
Yeah.
And so at that point, I was like, okay, well, we can do it if it's just for this election. But then as it started to go, it's not just for this election.
Yeah, and what I was afraid of was, we don't want to set a precedent.
No.
First, and second, it's just so critical. This election is one of the most critical elections I think we're ever having. We want our voice heard.
Absolutely.
We try not to come down and bother you very much, but when I start hearing a lot of stuff, I will bring it to you.
Well, absolutely. I wish you'd call me personally, though, and we, like your wife did. I was happy. Also, but I just want you guys to remember Matt Clark.
Okay. Thank you very much. Anyway, I appreciate it.
Thank you, John.
John, can I ask you a question? I know that after the holiday weekend, we had some issues with trash up in Cloudcroft and
It was everywhere.
So it was everywhere.
Yeah.
So, but standardly, the amount of roll-offs that you have at your location is adequate for the amount of people who live in that location, right?
For most of the time it has been, but lately it's been extra hard, so it'd probably be helpful to have another one. I don't know. We've had, matter of fact, I wound up picking up trash off the road from Pinon a while back because the truck went down. They didn't make it 1 week. They skipped a week, and then it was way overflowing. They usually take the backhoe over there and push it down, but when he loaded it and headed off, I wound up meeting the truck, and then in a minute I started finding trash all over the road. I wound up picking up, 50 or 60 sacks of trash and took it back and put it in the dumpster that was left empty. And then I know one hand that worked for me now did it yesterday. So when we get behind, it creates another mess. So we got to figure out a way to manage it a little bit better.
Yeah,
If you will, John, when you have to do that, if you can please call Pamela and let her know what's going on, because if we don't know, then there's no way that we can try to help fix the problem, Spike,
Sure.
he sent me some pictures the other day, his cows all eating out of those dumpsters up there, and that's the county's dumpsters. That's
Right.
our responsibility,
Right.
so
Right.
we need to be a better neighbor to y'all up there, I think, and make sure that we get the trash out of there.
Especially if we're having the holiday. We got impacted. It's crazy at how many people have come up there. Everybody wants to get away from, they
Sure.
feel safer up there. I do.
Right.
Sure.
Some of them I'd just soon not come, but.
I'm just thinking, even if we could schedule maybe an additional pickup during holiday times.
During holiday times, it would be very helpful.
I mean, I know
because
that-
every time we have a big weekend, it happens. So
Sure.
if we could add that extra dumpster during that.
Especially during hunting
Yeah.
season too.
Yeah, yeah, and now we're in the middle of hunting and Labor Day and all that kind of what happened, so, but it happened all over, so I can't fault anybody.
Sure.
We just
Ralph,
picked it
Ralph
up,
and
took
them
care of
oughta,
it.
they ought to be able to keep a pretty good eye on that. You'd think, Pamela, if they go up there to pick those dumpsters up and they're brimming over with trash, then that just should tell you that you need to pick them up more often.
Yeah, and
you know?
I think this holiday weekend was bad because they had 2 trucks in the shop, and we talked, they were
Yes.
in the shop.
Okay.
But they were at the road department
Sure.
being worked on,
That
so
makes
it was
sense.
bad luck.
Yeah.
Yeah,
really
it was
was.
just like the perfect storm.
Yeah.
That's a
The
shame.
picture of Bluff Springs was,
Oh,
Yeah, I know.
It was atrocious, wasn't it?
It
Yeah.
makes you want to cry.
But it was so all over that I didn't see how you could, I wasn't faulting anybody because you just can do so much. But it was really, we had a busy weekend. So.
Well, I can
And it
understand the
seemed like it
complaints
happened.
too, because,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if I saw a dumpster that was full and I couldn't fit my trash in there, I wouldn't leave it on the side of the dumpster. I would take it with me to another dumpster
To
that
another
wasn't
place.
full.
Yeah.
You know,
The problem was like at Weed and at Pinon, everywhere I've been, all of them were full. So it was one of those deals that happened, so I never said anything to anybody, just picked up the trash and put it out. I was picking up trash when I worked for the Forest Service when I was a kid.
I
I've been
know,
doing it
but-
most of my life, so I get too excited
well,
about it.
I'll have a conversation with Ralph and see if there's not something that we can do, at least around holidays.
Yeah, if we could add an extra one at that point in time, anytime we got a big weekend, that might be helpful. We haven't been able to have some of our big weekends. Had to cancel Bluegrass, we had to cancel our reunion.
I know it. It's
So.
been so long since I've heard live music, I'm about to lose it. It's been rough.
Well, I really
get it.
appreciate it, and I wanted to come in and say thank you for getting that adjustment made, because we just felt like that our votes needed to be local, and a lot of our people are not, and nobody that I talked to is comfortable voting by mail. They do not want to do the vote by mail.
No, I've heard a lot of that. They just really don't want to mail in their ballots, and I understand that.
Yeah,
You know, it's not how we've done it in the past.
right. Yeah.
People are very reluctant to change when it comes to something
Yeah.
that important.
Yeah, that's something that important. We want it to come. When I was like, I don't remember if I was 16 or 18, Uncle J. Marion Bell, who used to have Bell's Western Realty down here, called me, and I'd go to the voting, when they got through counting the votes, I'd go in and get the numbers and call it into Alamogordo. And that was, I don't remember if they let me do it when I was 16 or 18. I was doing it as early as they determined, so. But communications have changed a little.
A little bit.
I hadn't learned the computer very good, so, but I appreciate you, and thank you very much for
Thank you, John.
letting us vote it on.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
You guys take care of yourself going back up, please.
All right, I appreciate it.
do any other unscheduled?
Not that anybody's spoken to me, but I do understand that May Hill Community Center.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Do you have a speaker for your group, or is each individual one person gonna, no?
Individually.
Individually. Come on up. Please state your name, where you're from, and please try to keep it as brief as you can, because it looks like there's a lot
Yes,
out
sir.
there.
Hi, my name is...
And also, if it's comfortable for you, if you'd rather take your mask off, if you can,
Thank you.
it's up to you.
Well, hi.
Hi, I'm
Now
Sherry
we can see your
Tennyson.
face.
I'm from Mayhill, and I want to thank you all today for listening to us. I'm sorry we're taking up your time with our squabbling. Currently, I am the president of the board at Mayhill Community Center. I love helping people. I have made some dear friends in Mayhill, and it's killing me that they are hurt and divided. I don't know why some people would want to break our spirit for helping each other. Oh, let's see. The things they are saying are not true. I guess they're not here today. I've had one community member ask for our records, and that was over a year ago. He asked for those records out of revenge. He threatened to stop our funding
for our important programs such as senior meals and Roadrunner Food Pantry. We do not get any funding for those programs. All the money that Mayhill makes is from the community, and we give it right back to the community. I don't know why he would want to threaten that. We help a lot of people up there. And again, it comes all from the community. But we could not do near the work that we do without the Mayhill Volunteer Fire Department. We owe them a great thank you. My suggestion is we close the doors at the community center in Mayhill until we can work together as one for all of the community. That's all I had.
Yes, ma'am. I don't want you to take this wrongly. If it's something on the building, on the community building where the county is responsible for the building and stuff like that, but on some of this, the county cannot really control what your community organization up there is arguing with, if that makes sense. I'm not trying to be...
It makes perfect sense, and I agree with you 100%. This is just stupid.
Yeah, so I don't know how much the board here is going to be able to, unless you bring us some kind of a presentation that you want us to try to adopt. But you understand where I'm...
Yes, sir. And that's why I thank you for your time today. I wish we didn't have to be here. I know y'all have more important things to worry about, but I do appreciate the time, and I'm hoping we can work this out.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do anyone else that would like to speak? Please state your name and where you're from, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Lou Waltering. I'm a citizen of Mayhill. I was the president of the Mayhill Community Center Board from 2011 to 2018 through 18. I have a lot of ownership in that community and in that center. And we work closely with the county through Pamela. We've improved it. We got a certified kitchen. It's a pretty fabulous place from what we started. And as Sherry said, we've got a couple of agitators. Commissioner Griffin talked about Republicans. This one particular individual is a Republican acting like a Democrat.
And I don't know. Worst kind.
So,
know about them.
Sherry, and just real quickly, we're bringing this forward because this one particular individual has threatened us now many times with, we're going to be in court. And so you just need to know that this is going on. And like I said, we're grateful for that building and looking forward to getting the new agreement signed and doing good things for the community. But we've got this one individual in particular he wants to fix us. We have a 5-person board that's been working for almost 60 years. Not the same board, but through generations of people that still live there and their dads were there. And they were able to get things done, 5 people. And it's been going on like that, and yep, they make mistakes, and sometimes they don't follow their bylaws perfectly, and life just goes right on. Most of the time, nobody knows about it, sure. Even. But this one particular individual, like I say, is trying to fix us. He's threatened going to court. He supposedly already he sent me an email, said that he had worked with the Attorney General and I forget what it's called now, the Public Corporation or something up in Santa Fe. And they blew him off. It was all political, and they blew him off. I think maybe they told him he was barking up the wrong tree, but he won't admit that. Anyway, we have a good community up there. They had a meeting. Sherry was gone for 2 months. This one individual became the president. The agitator used him as a puppet. And they had a meeting scheduled for August 30th. Sherry came back a week and a half before that and said, we need to cancel that meeting. It's not going to be a board meeting. nope, we're going to have a meeting. This is the vice president as acting president. Well, and the acting president's wife wrote this letter to the community, sent it out one day before the meeting. In the meeting, they said, we're going to talk about a petition to come here to you and ask you to do an investigation of the Mayhill Community Center Board. So the wife is telling the community, we're going to have this petition, investigate the board that my husband is the vice president of. There's something wrong with that picture. Anyway, they had the meeting, but they didn't have a quorum. Because Sherry and Martha Faust back here, the treasurer, didn't go. So it just became a community meeting. They sent out a letter, that letter, to a select audience. We have a list, a mailing list that people asked to be on for the Mayhill Community Center Board. And whenever we had a meeting, we would send that out. The fire department would forward that to all their members. I would send it out to the senior people. So several mailing lists, wide. This one was very, very narrow. When you looked at they had 12 items to vote on. Of the 12 items, there was 24 motions. There was only one person of the 12 people that made a motion, one person on that board that had been to a board meeting in 10 years, 10 and a half years. I've been there, like I said, 9 years as a president, and then with helping Sherry this past year and a half. And I've only missed 2 meetings. Not one of those people had been there in over 10 and a half years, nor have they ever participated in any of the events that we had. But here they are. It's choreographed. And we weren't there. I didn't go either. They gave us the notes. And of those 24 votes, 12 of them came from members of the same family. And it couldn't have taken more than 20 minutes to go through it the way it looked. It was just perfectly choreographed. You vote on this one, you second it, wham bam. Well, none of them are valid because it wasn't a quorum of the community board. They don't like that, but what I perceive, and maybe I'm wrong, the first vote had Sherry and Martha been there, it would have been a 3-2 vote, which we need 2/3 to remove someone from the board, and 2/3 of the audience, whoever that might be, vote. So what I speculate, based on all the rest of this, select mailing list, not following the bylaws for voting in 2 members. So they vote on the 2 members first. So then you got a 3-2 vote on the board. And with that select audience there, you have you're going to get the 2/3, because there was no one from our side there, as much as I could gather. And out goes the president, at least from the president position, and probably off the board. And then they could do whatever they wanted after that. So we wanted to be aware of you to be aware of that, and we understand what you're saying. You don't want to get involved in that little squabble. But if it does go to court, you could be involved somehow. In the meantime, we're trying to get heads together and more rational minds to say, let's fix this and work together and get back the way we've been doing it for 60 years. So that's all I have.
I would like to say one thing. If you could, I mean, I can't say that we can get any involvement, but if there's issues happening up there, if you could keep our county manager informed on what, that way the county doesn't get blindsided on something that might come to affect us.
Exactly. Sherry had asked me to review the new agreement. The new agreement talks about, I forget the word now, I had to look it up what it meant, but we're supposed to kind of protect you guys so you don't have to deal with some of this stuff.
Right.
And in order to do that, we need to tell you about it, that, hey, it's out there and
hopefully it'll never come up here again.
Yeah.
But if it does, you'll know about it now.
And we do appreciate that, and we do appreciate the heads up and just keeping us informed.
And appreciate your service too in the community center up there. You know, unless you've lived in a small community, you don't really understand how important the community center is. You know, I mean, y'all, the little town I grew up in, that little community center was kind of, anytime there was any kind of event, it usually took place at the community center.
Yeah.
And it takes willing individuals to make sure it's going, so we appreciate you guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Commissioners, if I may interject real quick, I have met with 11 members of the community up there, some board members, some not. We have this group here. They're very divided. I have made it very clear I am only going to meet with them if it's the full board included,
Sure.
or else I'm put in the middle of a he said, she said. And also regarding the agreement, it's time to renew the agreement. It goes to the State Board of Finance, that whole ordeal we go through every year. I am not going to accept a signature and the agreement signed unless the majority of the board sends something stating, yes, the majority of the board agreed to this. So that I know it's not just one person, because I'm being put in the middle of two sides that are conflicted, and I want to make sure when we take that agreement to the State Board of Finance, we have had the full authority of that board to vote on that agreement.
Does it not have to go back out to bid for?
We've already done that.
contract? Okay.
Yeah, that's already been awarded.
Yes, ma'am, come on up and state your name and where you're from, please.
I won't take long. I'm Gail Kramer from Mayhill. Know lots of you here. Appreciate your time, commissioners, your service as well. The only thing that you guys got my letter kind of spells out. Lou has one that's actually even better than mine. He knows actually more than I. The main thing that I think that has not been pointed out is we had a community meeting when Sherry was elected. There was over 100 people there. She was voted in unanimously. So this is a little splinter group. It's a scary group for me. If I were to go to one of their meetings, I would actually be afraid. I mean, it's kind of a scary situation. And while this is a 501c3, the board is, the building still belongs to you, so there is a vested interest on how that center is run. And we understand the divisions and all that. But I guess what I'd like to say is the majority of the people in that community do back Sherry. The allegations, and I've looked into all of them, are just simply not true. They're just not true, outside of she might not have followed Robert's Rules of Order on occasion. Okay.
I'm sorry, did I say that out loud?
I understand.
I thought it was quiet about that.
But just, I guess, we need guidance on how to get control. If there's any possible way to get any kind of good guidance, I don't know how it is, because you've got one group doing this. They've elected new board members with one of the current board there. They elected new board members. What happens? Are they legal? No, in my mind, but they think they're legal. So, you know, you've got this group operating with 3 board members, and then you've got this other group with Martha and Sherry, who are legal board members. So one of the board members has gone rogue and has elected his own board, and he was one who voted Sherry in, made her take the position. So it's a difficult situation, and basically I think all of us here would just like advice. Where do we go? What do we do? How do you get control? You know, and I said in my letter, I agree with Sherry that you guys may have to come lock that place up until we get some control of some sort. I don't know, it'd be sad. There's a lot of great programs. Lou and Sherry they have started awesome programs. These people don't know what they're asking for. They don't know what they're doing. So anyway,
it's just a shame that
it is a shame.
In these small communities, there are people who kind of inject themselves into a situation without first making an effort to educate themselves on that situation.
Right.
And I'm not saying that's the case, but I've seen it. I'm from a very small town, 1,200 people there, so I understand the small community. And as Coy was saying about the community centers being the hub, the social hub is true. And the last thing in the world you need is fighting over something like this, because nobody is getting served during that kind of behavior.
Right.
And so it's sad, really, especially, and I think you got my responses.
Yeah,
I mean,
thank you.
I'm just completely saddened, because Mayhill has been such a lovely community for so long, and everybody is so friendly to each other, and we used to love riding the motorcycles up there, come have a hamburger, and just hang out in the park, and it's sad to see this situation happening, especially to the entire community, it sounds like. I mean, division in an entire community, it spreads.
Well, we're trying to be reasonable. We're trying to do reasonable, but I am the conduit for the fire department, because I've been on it for 15 years, been the assistant chief and everything else. But because I forwarded an email and was the conduit, the normal conduit, you can't even imagine what I'm getting back. It is, and because it's been forwarded then to others, and I'm getting, I mean, it's unbelievable to that point. So, it's a sad situation. Just wanted you to have a heads up. Know that we totally are behind Martha and Sherry. They've done a great job. They have a heart for that community and for the people and for the children in that community. So
let me ask the attorney something. This kind of off the books, but can they, through their board, can they have a special community meeting, and can they make adjustments to the board, have somebody removed from the board if they get, say you had 100 people come to your last meeting whenever they voted in, if they have 100 people show back up, can they do they're running by the, Robert's rules, what is?
I would not want to give an answer, because I have no idea what their bylaws or constitution say. So I don't know.
Have you checked into your bylaws to see if there is anything that pertains to special meeting minutes?
And Sherry's done a lot of research and contacted the AG's office, and but they're not going to follow it. I mean, this is a totally rogue group. And that's the problem, is that we've got this group that we can't, and they're getting bigger because they're telling lies about her. So, I was at PVT yesterday, and one of them was in there recruiting, and it's difficult.
Yeah.
So, any advice will be appreciated.
Yeah, people don't understand how damaging lies can be. Even half-truths are damaging. I'm sorry.
Thank you,
that's
guys.
happening up there.
Anyone else on? Yes.
Sorry.
Hello, my name is Martha Faust, and I am the treasurer of the Mayhill Community Center. I really don't have much to add, other than I'm 100% behind Sherry. She has always done a good job. We are part of the community center because we want to do good for the community. And it hurts my heart what's going on right now. That's honestly all. I just want to make sure we're here because evidently they were here and they were telling untruths. And I just want to make sure you guys know, no matter how thin the paper, there's always two sides. And I just want you guys to know our side. That's all I have.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, if that's the end of the unscheduled, take this to the new business. Item 13 on the new business agenda. Request approval of resolution number 09-10-20/109-11, travel and per diem policy. Julianne?
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
I'm Julianne
Thanks,
Hall,
y'all. Y'all have a good safe
Otero
trip back
County
up the
Finance
mountain.
Director. So I'm bringing this before you today because our previous travel and per diem policy that was approved with Resolution 11-1711/100-26 did not reference 2.42.2 New Mexico Administrative Code regulations governing the Per Diem and Mileage Act. So this new policy references both the New Mexico statutes annotated 1978, sections 10.8.1 through 10-8-8, and the 2.42.2 New Mexico Administrative Code. And this also updates the language, the procedures, adds a new approval and reimbursement forms. And the prior travel and per diem resolution, policy and resolution, it will be repealed and replaced with this new travel and per diem policy and resolution. So I would like to just kind of go through some of the items that I think are important for everyone to know about this. Number one, it's, I tried to categorize it a little bit better. It does contain everything from the administrative code, but there's also a few additional, I guess, notes or potential restrictions. We can be a little more restrictive than the administrative code, but we cannot be less restrictive. So if you want to take a look at this policy, first of all, there is a table of contents, and actually there's a there's an error in there that needs to be. Oh, you don't have it?
No.
No.
Oh.
It wasn't, if
None
it
of us have
wasn't
it.
attached, it wasn't printed, but
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, let me just read to you some of the things then.
It is attached, it's online, yes. It's online.
for the resolution or the
Yeah,
policy?
the resolution's here.
Okay.
The resolution's here, but
The
not the policy
resolution here,
itself.
but there's nothing in between.
Travel and per diem policy right here.
I wonder why she didn't get it printed.
Yeah, it's all online.
All right, let me, I can go print it if you'd like.
It's up to you all.
I'd like a copy of it
Okay.
at some point.
Sure, absolutely.
It's funny because when I was reading
No,
this,
I just noticed that on the table of contents, there was one of the page numbers that didn't print properly, so I'll get that fixed as well. So it goes through as a normal policy, giving the purpose of the policy is to establish uniform processes for requesting approvals for travel and regulations related to mileage per diem and the reimbursement of actual expenses while conducting official county business on approved travel. And then there's definitions of some of the terms that are used. There's a section under requirements for requirements to travel. And they're just section B, C, and D were ones I kind of wanted to bring to your attention. Under required information, the travel request must include all necessary relevant information, such as appropriate brochures, agendas, schedules, and itineraries. A lot of times we'll receive travel requests that's literally just the form saying, hey, I'm going here on this date and I want this much for in advance. We need to see something that shows that you are approved by your department director, elected official, whoever is the head of your department, that this is where you're going, this is approximately how much it's going to cost, this is the itinerary or the agenda of the conference. The next thing is the destination. So this is something where I'm not sure if it's been addressed in the past, but typically, and this is part of the administrative code, reimbursement of actual expenses are only to be for destinations that are basically more than 35 miles away. Overnight travel is only going to be granted for destinations that exceed 75 miles from the designated post of duty. And these are items that can be adjusted on a case-by-case basis by the county manager, but typically those travel requests that are less than 35 miles away for per diem, you're probably not going to receive it. And then the signature authority, that's something also that needs to be addressed because sometimes we'll have where, for example, like one elected official will sign for another elected official within departments. But within the departments, what we really need, all county employees, they have to have their travel requests approved by their department head, which could potentially be an elected official. And then all the department heads themselves must have their travel requests and travel vouchers approved by the county manager. So the county manager needs to know where people are going.
Julianne,
yes,
one second.
yes, sir.
Can we not have the county manager, doesn't that have to have that signature on everything? Shouldn't it be on everyone?
Not,
I mean,
not,
even if it's going through a department head, but that department head still has to account to the county manager.
typically
I
not.
wouldn't.
I don't know, that would possibly be
I mean, if
Pamela's
it's-
decision,
if
but
it's
for
David
example.
and he's got some of his officers that are
Right.
traveling to, then David should just handle it. David shouldn't have to come to Pamela and get Pamela's signature on it too.
But if
That's-
there's gonna have to be a reimbursement on funds or paying for something,
Yes.
they've gotta be,
Yes, sir, but each
I would think.
department head is responsible for their
Yeah.
budget. So they should know what they have in their travel line items. And if they have individuals in their department that need training, CPEs, or, you know, to go to a conference or something, they should be able to approve that for their individuals. However, the department heads themselves that report to Pamela, they will definitely have to have her sign off on it. As well as the elected officials that are in charge of other departments, because really Pamela needs to know if they're going to be traveling as well. So, exclusive of the commission. The commission, as you know, we have another agenda item coming up that's going to discuss that. But exclusive of the commission, department heads, which may include an elected official, would need to have Pamela approve their travel, and then individuals within those departments would have their department head approve the travel.
So say if Robin's gonna send one of her folks off to training, then the elected officials, the department heads would still have to come and, no.
No,
Yeah.
no. Then Robin could determine
Sure.
that that person can go. That's
Sure.
someone within her department who reports to her, and she can
Sure.
make that decision.
Yeah.
then that department head is responsible if for some reason it's not legit or it goes bad, then
Sure.
it's,
Yes, sir.
okay.
The next section just is in regard to per diem rates. There's a lot of confusion about per diem and actual expenses. Per diem in and of itself, it applies specifically to lodging and meals, okay? So there are additional expenses outside of lodging and meals that can be paid for. Actual expenses can be reimbursed in addition to if you choose per diem. So it's basically either you're going to choose a per diem, which is the state rate for your lodging and meals daily. For example, in-state it's $85. If you choose per diem, it's $85, and that has to cover your lodging and meals. But there might be additional actual expenses outside of lodging and meals that you can be reimbursed exactly, you know, for the exact amount. For example, if you have a parking fare, or there's a registration fee, or if you have to fly and there's an airline ticket or something that has to be reimbursed. But you can still choose for your lodging and meal portion to be reimbursed per diem. So the per diem rates, for example, for single-day travel, you must be away from your post of duty at least 11 hours in order to receive any per diem. It's kind of sad, but that's the way that it works. So essentially what it says is that you would be reimbursed for anything that extends beyond a normal workday. A normal workday is considered 8 hours within a 9-hour period. So it's essentially a 9-hour period. They're saying like 8 to 5 if that's your normal schedule. Well, you're going to work 8 hours in that 9-hour period because an hour is lunch typically. So they're saying you have to travel at least 11 hours in duration in order to be eligible for even like $12 per diem. There's another question on the special areas. There is only, according to New Mexico Administrative Code, there is only one special area, and that is in-state, and it is Santa Fe, and that receives a per diem rate of $135. All other in-state areas are $85. All out-of-state areas, doesn't matter if you're in California, Nebraska, New York City, it's $115. That's ridiculous, honestly, if you ask me. And this hasn't been updated by the state for many, many years. So that is why when you're traveling out of state, most likely you're going to request actual reimbursement rather than per diem. Because per diem is not going to cover your lodging and meals. Even in the state, it most likely is not going to cover it. The next section that I just wanted to bring a few things to your attention is under Section 5, the reimbursement of actual expenses in lieu of per diem rates. So partial day travel, like if you're just going to be going, like let's say you're going to go from here to Albuquerque and back in one day, all right? You're not staying overnight. So partial day travel, you would only potentially be eligible for reimbursement of per diem if you're gone more than 11 hours. You would not be eligible for any, actual expenses for meals. Lodging reimbursement, that's something that if you are going to be staying, let's say out of state or in a very expensive area, if your lodging expenses are in excess of $215 per night, then that would require the approval of the county manager. And sometimes that can happen. You go to Washington, D.C. or New York City, and it's possibly going to be more than that. So that is something that would have to be approved by the county manager. Meal reimbursements in state, this is for actual expenses, $30 per 24-hour period. Out of state is $45 per 24-hour period. And for actual expenses, there will be a requirement to submit actual itemized receipts. So if you just bring us your credit card or your charge card receipt that says I spent, $53 on this day, we're not going to accept that because we don't know what that includes. Were there personal items on there? Was there alcohol purchases on there? Those types of things. We actually have to have an itemized receipt that's going to show the name of the business, the date of the purchase, the description, and the cost for each item. Now, in the case where you happen to lose a receipt, because, that it happens to all of us. Sometimes you forget, you leave a place, you forget to ask for a receipt. If it's going to cause a hardship for the individual, you can submit an affidavit for lost receipts. And on that form, you basically just have to put the date, the type of expense, the amount of the expense, and that's something that must be signed by the traveler, their department head, and the county manager. And then you could be reimbursed for those lost receipts. Mileage reimbursement, that's under Section 6. So we would like to ask people to use county vehicles whenever possible, and I think most people do. Sometimes there's not one available. For example, if you're in the administration building, we don't have a fleet of vehicles available to us. So sometimes there's one available, sometimes they're not. And so the department head can approve of people to use their own POVs, privately owned vehicles. Reimbursement rates are set at 80% of the Internal Revenue Service standard mileage rate, which is set as of January 1st of the previous year. So for this current year, 2020, it's actually 80% of the 2019 rate is 46.4 cents per mile. Now, there is also a section that is in regard to reimbursement for mileage if in a privately owned aircraft. So if you have a plane, and I don't think there's anyone in the county who normally would travel on business using their own plane, but if that ever does happen, I didn't include that specifically in here because it's sort of a rarity. And if something like that ever does happen, we have someone who wants to travel in their own plane, then they will be reimbursed per the New Mexico Administrative Code. And the very last item, 10, compliance, basically states any provision which is not addressed specifically in this policy shall be in accordance with the most recent version of the New Mexico Administrative Code and the New Mexico statutes annotated. And that's in relation to the reimbursement of public officials and employees for per diem, mileage, and other travel-related expenses. So there might be some incidences like that that we can't foresee at this time that perhaps might come up in the future. If it's not specifically addressed in here, it will be covered by whatever the administrative code states. And of course, there is a limit for out-of-state travel. So total mileage reimbursement for out-of-state travel by privately owned automobile shall not exceed the total coach class commercial airfare that would have been reimbursed those traveling had they traveled by common carrier.
Well, that policy sounds familiar, doesn't it, Mike?
Yes. So that is within the New Mexico Administrative Code. And then reimbursement for other expenses, as I had mentioned previously, that there can be certain other actual expenses that can be reimbursed in addition to per diem, because per diem is just lodging and meals. So like I mentioned, airfare, perhaps you go someplace where a rental car might be needed if you're flying somewhere, and then registration fees potentially. But one thing in submitting your agendas, itineraries for conferences, and there's registrations and fees in there, if that fee happens to include lodging or meals, then you're not eligible for per diem. So if you're going to go to a conference and it states right in there, you're going to be receiving a lunch meal every day, or perhaps they're going to include your lodging, which it's not common, but it could happen, then you would only be reimbursed for any additional actual expenses that you incurred. Your lodging and meals, you would not be able to request per diem for that. That's only if it's specifically stated in the conference, registration documents. And then any other expenses, actual cost of other expenses on a case-by-case basis as determined by the county manager. So there could be something unusual that comes up that you think might be related to the travel or the conference, certain materials or something like that that you've purchased that may be reimbursed case-by-case basis. But then there are also some items that we wanted to specifically mention that will not be eligible for reimbursement under any circumstances. And those are listed under that same section, I believe it's section 7C. And that would include alcohol purchases, tobacco purchases, gratuities, personal items, gifts or souvenirs, entertainment charges, gasoline in a private vehicle, and hotel charges beyond the regular nightly occupancy rate. So if you want to go someplace and say, hey, I'd like to go a day early and go see some family and maybe stay a day late, and my husband or wife or significant other is going to be there with me, you're only going to be reimbursed for the nights that you would have spent just for the conference. So anything additional to that is on your own dime. Travel advances. So you can request a travel advance. Department heads can approve that, and you can be advanced up to 80% of either the per diem for lodging and meals and mileage or actual cost, plus other potential applicable travel expenses, say airfare, car rental, up to 80%. And this is only applicable when overnight travel is required. So you can't get, if you think you're going to be gone 12, 13, 14 hours, you're not going to get an advance on your per diem of like $12 or $20. We're not going to do that. There is a deadline for travel advances. We are requesting that they be submitted no less than 2 weeks prior to travel. Now, I understand there's times this is not going to happen. We might have someone from detention or the sheriff's office. They suddenly have to transport someone. They might have to stay overnight. They need a check right away, and sometimes, it's going to happen.
Sure.
But for the most part, we would like to have 2 weeks advance notice to make sure that we have everything reviewed and have that check ready and available for the person before they travel. Returning from travel, you need to submit your return voucher within 5 business days, if at all possible. And if you have monies owed to you, you're probably going to do that so that you can get reimbursed. There is a section in here, I did include, there's a memo, a travel policy violation memo. This is something that is going to be probably rarely used, if ever. That's where, for example, let's say you get a travel advance of 80% of your expected expenses for your trip. You get there, and for whatever reason, you only spend like 50% of it. You don't spend the whole travel advance. So when you come back, you actually owe the county money. And if you don't pay that money back within about 30 days, we're going to send you a little memo saying, hey, you owe us some money. If you still don't pay it back within another 30 days, we're going to garnish it from your wages. So that's just something that's out there. Like I said, it's probably very rare. That may never occur, but I wanted to cover that section. That's really, I think that's most everything that I wanted to go over. Like I said, I did also include the actual 2.42.2 New Mexico Administrative Code and also a copy of the state statutes. And there's copies of the new forms out there. We are in the process of making those fillable forms, so it's a little bit easier for everyone to complete. And we'll get them posted out there probably on our website so that employees can go and grab them whenever they need them. And I don't know if you have any specific questions for me on the policy?
Are we under any kind of a time constraint as far as adopting this? Do we need to do it this meeting right now? Or the reason why I ask is I just don't know if the department heads have been able, have they had the opportunity to see this new travel policy, to read through it?
No, I don't believe so, other than it's just been posted, with the agenda since last Friday.
Because I think it'd be nice, maybe it'd be a good move to maybe allow every department head the opportunity to read through it. Maybe there might be something that they might want to add or take away or have a question over. I don't know.
Sure, if they
It's
have.
they're the ones that are, the department, I mean, they're gonna be the ones that are, and the elected officials, you know, they're gonna be affected by this travel policy, so. Could we do that? Could we
You
allow
can
them
table
to
it until next
let
month.
them review it if they would like to, and then the
Sure.
next commission meeting, we could go ahead and
The only thing I'll say to that
and
is,
move on it?
if they have a question or an issue with an item that is specifically mentioned in the administrative code, there's not much I can do about it. If that's the way that it's stated in the code, that's the way we have to follow it. You know, the things as far as like the signatures authority, that's something, you know, Pamela and Michael and I discussed, and we felt that that was reasonable, so that might be something that, that's not specifically addressed within the administrative code, other than to say that agency heads, you know, and some of their terms apply more to like state employees or state agencies, not specifically for like a county or a municipality. So some of those we could probably, if there's an issue with some of that, we could possibly change some of that language. But yeah, I just want to let you know, if there's something that's specifically stated in the New Mexico Administrative Code that we have to follow, we have to follow it, so.
I kind of agree with Coy. I'd like to table it until next month, and then if we can make sure all the department heads have a copy of that and have a chance to review it and express any of their concerns, or if that's not going to kill us in the time frame.
Sure, that's fine.
Thank you, Julie.
All right, thank you.
So at this time, I would like to make a motion to table agenda item 13.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
I don't know if you need to read the motion or not.
Well, I mean, I can, well, she pretty much read it. I can read it. If we're going to table it, I'll read the resolution on the next one whenever it's going to go to vote. All in favor to table it until the next commission meeting?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, agenda item 14. Discuss and consider resolution number 09-10-20/109-14, resolution on payment for official travel of Otero County Commissioners. Now, I would like to start this discussion. It's got my name behind this. I was asked to present this. My agreement was I wanted to discuss it. It's not that I'm necessarily for it, but I wanted to have a discussion with the other two commissioners on this and see what their feelings. My understanding, this is coming from the review of the audit, correct, Michael? They're wanting a change on...
The letter we received from the state auditor asked us to revisit this issue of having the commission would sign off on approving commissioner travel rather than having the county manager do this. That's the only thing this does. It just says before it's paid, the commission will approve travel by each other.
Can I ask you, is that common practice amongst other county commission boards in other counties? Or,
I don't know. I had not researched that.
Or is that just something that Brian Colon wants Otero County to adopt too?
I don't know. I did not check to see if other counties, if they were doing it.
Because honestly, I think that our travel policy was, I think, is a good policy. Now we missed the boat whenever all this arose out of, we know where all this came from. It was because the policy wasn't followed whenever I was reimbursed for the trip to Washington, D.C. So we know where that stems from, but if we would have followed our policy from the beginning, then it would have been, we wouldn't even be where we're at right here, you know? I mean, so I don't know. I mean, I'd vote on it, but we just have to make sure that we don't just create a whole bunch more added bureaucracy in the deal that's just I don't know.
Well, some of the is this going to be a pre-approval?
No.
This is after you come
Yes.
and you bring the deal to the agenda.
Yeah.
then I don't see what the, I mean, as long as it's a legitimate cause for travel, then there shouldn't be any question.
Wasn't
You
that all
know.
stated in the previous one also? That in order to have payment, it has to be brought before the board?
The difference is who signs it. I wouldn't sign my boss's travel vouchers. You would sign each other's. So your subordinate would not be signing, as if
Right.
my subordinates don't sign on my travel. So
But we're
it's
still
putting us in
bound-
a similar.
I mean, even though, but we're still bound by our own policy. I mean, the commission, we can't, it's not like we can just go rogue and start traveling all over the place and cashing checks in, you know? I mean, we still have our policy that we have to follow, so I guess this would just be kind of adding more steps and adding more safeguards as far as a resolution like this. Yeah.
Is this gonna make the AG happy?
I wish I had that ability that psychic ability.
Well, that's what it sounds like this is coming from.
Well, they asked in the letter if they thought that was a good idea when we kind of talked about this a little bit last year, and so that's why I laid it for you, just to as a response to that letter. So.
Well, this in my eyes is singling out a commissioner.
Mm-hmm.
Any elected official is no different than Sheriff Black, Mrs. Holmes.
Yeah.
This is, I mean, we know where it's all revolving to, and it's the finger pointing thing, but I don't feel it's right. That's my opinion.
And so
Now,
long as
we
the
gotta-
policy is being followed, this shouldn't be necessary.
That's exactly right. And
I
I don't
agree.
feel we have to change our whole routine as long as it is kept on a strict deal and a guideline just for what that man wants up there.
Okay.
So, anyway,
Yeah, I agree with you, Gerald. And as far as me personally, I'll ride a bicycle a lot before I turn another reimbursement for any travel in. So, I'm done there. I'll have a bake sale to fund my trip.
any further discussion on this? Okay, I'll make a motion for approval or discuss and consider resolution 09-10-20/109-14, resolution on payment for official travel of Otero County Commissioners. Can I get a second on that?
A second.
All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say aye.
Nay.
Or nay?
Nay.
Nay. All right, moving on to agenda item number 15, request approval of resolution number 09-20-20/109-12 to adopt the 2022-2026 infrastructural capital improvement plan. This was submitted by Pamela.
Here we are again. It's time to pick your projects and prioritize for the ICIP. As a reminder, this is not a funding request. However, if we choose to request capital outlay this fall, those projects must be on this list. So I have worked with department heads, buildings and grounds, road department, those that have projects, to see if there's any new projects. In addition, we have the courthouse on there this year. We knew that was coming up and that I would put that on the ICIP. So we've tried to anticipate our big projects that we might be needing funding for this year. So if you want to remove any, let me know. And other than that, you need to put them in order of priority.
Okay, let me ask one question on the courthouse deal. This is going to apply for funding from the state, right?
This is any source of funding we want to apply for.
There's no funding out there that's going to...
Actually, I am working with Social Tours Small's office. They think there might be some grants out there that we can apply for. So they're working on that, trying to find that for me. Those grants, I don't know if it's going to require the project to be on the ICIP, but it's better to be safe than sorry. And as you see on this project, it is phased into 3 years, because there's no way anyone's just going to hand us $11.8 million in one shot. So this is a phased project we have. It does not exclude them from giving us the lump sum amount if we can find it in a grant. So we're still protected. We at least have the project in the full amount in the ICIP.
So do we have, how many are we giving you?
You're going to put them all in chronological order for me.
Oh, okay.
Now, when we get to capital outlay, you won't be asking for every one of these in capital outlay. They tell you they want you to limit it to 5. If you pick 5 projects for capital outlay in any specific order, it doesn't matter if they're not in the same order on here. That doesn't matter. What matters is when you ask for capital outlay, the order they are there.
Do we need to give you the order today?
Yes. This is due September 18th, so I have to get this sent off next week.
So how are we gonna prioritize?
Among the
it?
3
We
of
just
you,
start talking like we've done before.
yeah, hash it out, what you think's most important.
Well, I'll say I haven't been in agreement on spending $11 million on the existing courthouse right here where it sits from the beginning. So I would put that one. That would be my last priority.
I have it last
And
also.
Riata Road
Is-
would be my first
I
priority.
have it as one also.
Do what?
Riata as number 1, Coin I both have that for number 1, and the courthouse is number 8. Both of us have it that way.
Okay, let's start number 1 and work out.
Okay.
Okay. You have Riata Road as 1,
Mm-hmm.
and you do. I have it as 2. I have Suzie Lane Bridge as 1 because it was passed last year. It got passed over. That is a dangerous bridge in Bowles Acres. The only other reason is because I've had a lot of complaints from the residents where the trucks are pulled up to it and then they're having to turn around in people's yards because they can't go across it. So whether it be 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, that's something that needs to be addressed because I told the people last year I thought that was going to go through and evidently it did not. So the Riata water crossing is just as important as the bridges we're doing in my eyes for flooding purposes. So that should be 1 or 2. I have it as 2. So if you want to do that one as 1, I agree with that. So we need to discuss on which one you want for number 2.
I've got Sheriff Black on the vehicles replacement as number 2.
So do I.
Okay, I actually had that at number 3, but we're just working one behind it.
Right.
The Suzie, I don't think Tom's here, but can you comment a little bit on that bridge? How important is that bridge?
Well, it's also, it's not a dead-end road by any stretch of the imagination, but emergency services have actually had issues because of that bridge. They had a structure fire right after we reduced the weight limit on that road. And instead of being able to drive the emergency equipment in a circle to get water, they actually had to get everything jockeyed around, turned around, and go back out the same way they came in to get in there. And like Commissioner Matherly's saying, John Q is calling, complaining about trucks turning around in their driveways, where it be a dump truck or UPS, FedEx, anything other over passenger vehicles been excluded from crossing that bridge.
Now granted, there is another access that you can get around.
Yes.
If they need to get around, but I'm just trying to stop the people turning around those people's front yards and stuff.
So is that number 3 then?
So, okay, so we have the vehicles as 2?
That's right. That's
I'll have no
what we
problem with
both ended
that.
up with.
So what were you gonna all have at 3?
I had actually put down the Alamo Street Phase 2, so we can get that off our plate, but I would move the bridge, Suzanne Bridge, up
Yeah, just move that to Susie, what?
to 3.
Yeah, to 3.
Which one?
Suzanne is number 3.
Okay. And I had the Elmo Street as the next one.
So
Yeah.
4.
4.
So that leaves us,
The
a
Sheriff's
school-
Office relocation, Emergency Operations Center, and that's it, or ACES school
Yeah.
building.
Emergency Operations Center, is that the one out where they're remodeling right now?
Yes.
This thing is, I can't believe we're still this far out with the money on that thing. My goodness, what are we sticking
We've
in
just
that
been
place?
giving little chunks, like 115 here, and we haven't been given a full funded amount to complete the project.
The ACES school building, what project what do they have going on there again?
We just completed Phase 2 with
Okay.
the CDBG grant and legislative funding. We were awarded this last session $250,000 in capital outlay funds that are going to be used as a match for a CDBG grant. So we're hoping we'll be awarded the grant and you won't even have to request anything in capital outlay this year. But because it's not fully funded yet, I have to leave it on here. It is for the final 3rd phase, which includes a new roof, and the roof leaked this week. It includes the parking lot, some lighting, it includes the kitchen. There's a common area that isn't completed, asbestos abatement. So it is the final phase. Hopefully you won't have to request capital outlay. We'll find out on September 17th if we get CDBG funds.
This isn't Chen's, though.
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay.
It's the old ACES school.
And this is the one they're requiring you to upgrade the fire alarm to?
Yes.
Because if you don't do the upgrade on the fire alarm, they'll probably shut that building down.
That building's rough.
You got any input, Trent, as far as what do you see pressing, or what do you see as far as?
That building's in dire need of a roof. We get more and more leaks with every rainstorm. That's the priority of phase 3, would be the roof in the common area.
We needed number 5. I'm kind of for putting the ACES, because we've already put so much money into, I kind of think this was done backwards. We should have fixed the roof first before you did all the improvements on the inside stuff. But if we don't get the roof fixed, then everything we spent and done is going to be.
Exactly.
So that's 5.
Yeah.
That brings us down, we know courthouse is 8, we're all in agreement on that.
David, what would you rather have, the relocation or the Emergency Operations Center? As far as the, you're on the, we have the Sheriff's Office relocation or the Emergency Operations Center? If you had to pick priority on one of those two.
Boy, one of those is Matt, not his.
Oh, yeah, that's right, the information. I got you. I don't know what I was, okay, I know what David would say. I don't know what I was thinking on that. You see, you think emergency and you immediately think of sheriff, you see? Sorry about that.
Now, you can ask him whether you want to redo the vehicles or the.
Yeah, that's right, that's right. I think I'd lean more towards David's on this one right here on the sheriff, on the relocation. But I don't know what y'all's input is.
Yeah, I had it higher up.
The sheriff's office?
I did. I
Put
had
that
it
6 and then 7 on the emergency operations center and then 8 on the courthouse.
Yep, that works. So 1 is Riata, 2 is the sheriff's vehicles, 3 Suzie Ann Bridge, 4 is Alamo Street Phase 2, 5 is the ACES school building, 6 is the sheriff's office relocation, 7 is emergency operations, and 8 is the courthouse.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Do they actually need to
So-
really vote?
Yeah, you do need to vote on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, see, they were not done.
I'll
Give
make
me
a
1
motion.
second.
I'll make a motion to approve the infrastructure capital improvement plan as stated.
All second. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, moving to agenda item 16. Does anybody need a little short 5-minute? Can we take a 5-minute pause for a second? Okay. a public hearing to consider a code of conduct ordinance. I have nothing.
Yeah, there isn't.
Because we're only requesting to advertise the hearing, we typically don't have the document ready until it hits the paper. It's still being drafted.
Okay. So, Laura, you're submitting this. Can you give a little? Can you tell me a little bit of what your?
Well, as Otero County has no code of conduct for elected officials or employees, as far as that's very similar to the governmental code of conduct. Because there isn't any on the books, it kind of hinders. I think it hinders the board in their action and what they're able to do and to keep accountability between commissioners and the board and as a whole. So this would just give a little bit more clear direction on what because it comes off of the governmental code of conduct.
When you take an oath to office, don't you have to abide by that governmental code of conduct? Well, I'm just asking that because that's basically is that what you're wanting to do, implement into a code of conduct into the county?
I think it's just because it will give the commissioners the latitude to be able to handle things from within, because we were getting a lot of phone calls about, what can you do, what can we do, how come you're not doing anything. I think that to hamstring future boards by not allowing them to have the latitude to basically govern themselves when a situation arises, I think that has been something that has been sorely needed in our books for a long time. Because seriously, so you sit here and you wait for the state to give you some direction. They're not going to give you direction, regardless of whether the Governmental Conduct Act is being used or not. So this gives the board, or my intention of this was to give the board the ability to basically govern themselves when it comes to conduct. And if the conduct is outside of a set norm that would go into the governmental code of conduct, then that can be referred to the AG or whatever that would have to happen.
So your idea of having a public hearing would be to bring the community together so they could you could get input on as far as what they think good conduct and bad conduct is and what it would be. I don't understand. We have the law, we have policy, we have procedures, we have everything in place in order for conduct of the commissioners to stay inside of certain bounds. So to call a public hearing to get community input on how they think that a commissioner should act or say, that's why we have elections.
That wasn't the purpose of the hearing, though. If the
people in your district don't agree with your conduct or the way that you're handling yourself, that's why we have elections. That's what you experienced this last election. They can choose to keep you in office, or they can choose to elect somebody else to replace you. But
so while this was to cover your situation, you have to have a public
conduct.
hearing in order to adopt an ordinance. You can't just adopt an ordinance without the community's input.
But an ordinance is if you can carry a gun in a public building, or if you got to keep your dog on a leash. An ordinance is a law, correct?
I'm sorry, was this going to be an ordinance then? Or is this a resolution that holds no weight?
This is a conduct ordinance.
An ordinance.
So at this point, it would be an ordinance, and it would be appropriate to have a public hearing in order to explain the need for, the content of, and the reason why we're speaking to them. Because the law says if this is something that you want to put as an ordinance, that you have to discuss it with the public.
And I don't really have a problem going to the public. The public is the one that elects each one of us. My problem is you have a New Mexico Code of Conduct book, which at New Mexico, is this ordinance gonna override that?
No, it doesn't. It would not override this. What this does is allow for corrective action, like a conversation to be had, censure, those types of small things that a county body could do, versus basically saying to the public, we have no ability to do anything. We have to wait for the state. So it allows the board itself to govern itself to a certain extent, and then if corrective action hasn't been a benefit, then you can refer this on up to the state level for the governmental code of conduct.
Okay, so I'm not an attorney, but, so, for example, I did something and Coy didn't like the way I did it, or one of the constituents didn't like the way I did it. As long as it's in compliance with the New Mexico Code of Conduct, I've done nothing wrong.
That's right.
That's
They
right.
can't, this ordinance would mean nothing. And that's
But-
the only thing.
Well, you would only enforce it if you had done something wrong.
If you had a public hearing and you pushed it further, it would just give more way to censor and control one another, just like you said. If I didn't like the way you were doing something, or you didn't like me filming a video in my office,
I think
then you can put it in the code of conduct and make it against the law, right?
It's already against the rules.
Well, where do you find that
It's
at?
in the governmental code of conduct
Point
that
it
we
out
gave
to
you
me
3
when we get
times.
there.
Absolutely.
I mean, if the code, if it entailed not allowing public officials to create fake Facebook profiles and such like that, then I would probably be more in favor of it, but, I'm not in this.
Was there an insinuation in there, Mr. Griffin?
No.
Good.
Should there be?
No, actually.
Okay, cool.
There shouldn't be.
Cool.
So again, this just gives the local elected officials the authority to have a conversation with, and it would obviously take, in a 3-person board, it would take 2 of the commissioners to do anything. You have to have a majority vote to do anything. So what I'm saying here is that rather than hamstring any future commission, give them the ability to have these conversations and possibly curtail some behavior that maybe a commissioner didn't know was a problem, so that you can have that conversation. You can show them that this is what's on the books, this is what it is at the state level. So we can actually tell the public when they have an issue that, or an extended time frame of issue, that there is something that we can do to help them. I mean, they do elect us to help them, and when we have no ability to help them, then it just makes it even worse and just gets all crazy out there. So this is not necessarily for any specific reason other than to give this board the ability to be able to curtail itself prior to pushing something up at the state level.
And I don't mind having the public hearing. I would like to be able to review what it is you're wanting to let the public review. I don't want something to be presented out there and say, if they don't like what I say, they're allowed to throw eggs at me.
Well, obviously, you guys would get a draft prior to the public hearing to have comment on back to the drafter.
Well, I would think we need to draft first and then present it to the public, where they have a legit deal and not us look at it and like, no, I don't like that. No way. I'm just saying, I don't want them people bringing baskets of eggs in here and throwing them at me.
Understood.
They give the right to them.
Well, and I, if I may, I don't want to be censored, you know, I don't want to be restricted in, you know, my method of operation may differ from Lori's method of operation, but just because I go about things differently and Lori goes about things differently doesn't mean that one is wrong and one is right. That's just the freedom of being able to represent your people and bring representation however you might be able to. But you go to adopting this this code of conduct and putting all this strict rules in place, and all it does is it limits you and it restricts you, and I think it hamstrings you. I mean, again, like I said, if the people of the county don't like the way that you're representing them and don't like your method of operation, then that's why we have elections, and that's why we can elect different representatives without having more bureaucracy and more rules and more control and more censorship. That's just where I'm at.
Well, I do agree that there should be guideline rules on what you can do and what you can't do. It's got to have, because you could make that corner really wide or you can cut straight across it. There should be some type of,
Sure,
no,
and
I really can't
that's why
do
we
that.
have policy and procedures, and that's why we have, that's why we have the law. I mean, the law is what keeps us inside our bounds, or should.
So I don't know what the procedure here is on this, but
Would you
before
like
I
to-
would present
Can we
anything to the
table it
public,
until next month, until we have a draft that we've all
yeah,
been
at least
able
where
to
I can
comment
see what
on?
it's going to say. I don't mind bringing it to the public.
Sure.
But I want to see what it's going to say before I bring something to the public.
So I'll make a motion to table this until the October meeting.
I'll second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
17.
Item 17.
It was pulled.
Pamela, we still need to table this?
The consultant got with me, and she heard back from the Public Land Use Advisory Committee that was kind of in the middle of helping draft this. They did not submit their comments in time, so they aren't incorporated. We do feel that they're important to hear, so I'm asking that we table this until next month.
Okay, that'll work.
So I'm going to read the agenda so everybody will know. Discuss and consider adoption of the 2020 Otero County Comprehensive Plan. Can we make a motion to table this?
I'll make a motion to table the comprehensive plan until the October meeting.
I'll second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Did a good job on it too, Pamela. It's good.
Yeah, you're gonna have a
Good.
few decisions to make. There's some, just in briefly, the consultant told me the PLUAC is wanting to delete some sections. I told the consultant not to do it, that should be your choice, so you will have some decisions to make next month.
All right. Number 8, agenda item number 18, request approval of order of setting property tax rates, the 2020 property tax year. Steve, would you like to
Sure.
fill us in on this?
Howdy, Steve. How are you?
Hey, how are you all doing? All right.
Because I don't have anything on this either.
I got something I can hand out. So, Steve Boyle, Otero County Assessor, and this process of the tax rates, how it works every year is each one of the agencies, the schools, the county, the city, they all provide budgets to the finance authority in the state. Then the state looks at the value that's been certified by each one of the counties. I certified the value back in July. And it takes the budgets, divides them into the values for each taxing authority, and comes up with the mill rates. So there was an issue, and that's why I have a copy here. There was one provided with originally with the documents, but it's a little bit different, but nothing that's significant here. And I'll explain it here. There's a lot of good news here this week. Okay, so here's what happened. Originally, the rates were sent out, and after some people started looking at it, they found out there was some rounding errors, and it was rounding errors in the totals. It was not anything that really affected the rates. So the rates were okay, but then when you totaled school district or a certain district, they would be off like .001 or .002. So what this is and I'm sorry, you can read it, but this is the new one that they did not send to you guys, that they just sent to me on Friday, that has the revisions as far as the totals being correct now. But the rates did not change, just so you know, they didn't change any rates. Now, there was another document that I gave you, which I know you guys a few years back, different commissioners really liked. Because what I do is when I get the rates, is I compare them to the last couple of years. So there was a document, and hopefully that was in there. I know I gave it to Sylvia.
Yeah.
That has the tax rates by districts.
But it's not in there. Do you have it in your book?
Yeah, we got it.
Oh, okay.
You got it? Okay, awesome.
And I want to apologize, I was on the wrong deal. I'm with you now, I got the
Okay,
paperwork.
okay. The tax rates by districts is something I do. I take the tax rates in summary. I don't take the details of each one of the ones, the document I just handed you, but then I summarize them by the different one in, one out, you know, that sort of thing. And I express them as a percentage rather than a mill rate. So, for instance, the first one, Alamogordo School District within the municipality, one in residential, that's really for 2020, 26 mill rates. But I like percentages because everybody else knows what a percentage is. Start talking mill rates and it's like, what's a mill rate? So, but anyway, the yellow columns show how we are on the new tax rates that have just been presented, which would be going out in the bills in November. And then it shows the difference between last year. And this is where the good news is.
It's going down.
The rates are all going down.
Sure.
So, and to give you an example, if, let's say you guys had the same budget this year as you did last year, the same dollars, but the value went up 2.5%, the mill rate would go down because that formula is take the budgeted dollars and divide it into the value. So if the values went up like 10%, the actual tax rates would go down. But the same amount of dollars, or you're going to get to take care of the county based on your budget. But so this is really just a formal approval that the county has to do to approve all of the new tax rates, the new mill rates. And I don't really know if you have any questions, but I'm open to any questions you have. But I think back in 16 was the last time I saw where rates went down. Usually they're going up. The mill rates are going up. So I'm open for questions if you have any. If not, I would hope that you guys could approve the tax rates going forward.
But that's always a good thing if the mill rate is going down, right?
Yes.
I mean, property
The
values.
property values went up 2.5% overall last year to this year when I did the certification of values. So in this case, this will take down your tax rates just a little bit based on that. So
Everybody that I know in real estate's, it's hot right now, it seems like, here in Otero County, you know. I mean, it seems like the values, people are getting what they're asking for their property, you know, without much negotiating, and property's not staying on the market long, so.
yes, sir.
I don't know, maybe.
Well,
it's
and I can
good
give you
move.
a good example of that, especially in the mountains.
Yeah,
Overall, I can tell you that from the beginning of the year until now, the average value, the average price, median price has gone down, but our sales are actually a little bit higher than they were last year for the same 6 months. But just to give you an idea of that in Cloudcroft in July, one of the guys that's on our board for the appeals, if you have appeal for protest, he's a sub guy, he's Randy, he's with Blue Mountain, but they sell about half, or list about half of the mountain properties. So they got a good piece of the market.
yeah.
And he said they had 68 or so closings in July.
Wow.
And that was as much as the quarter was for last year, a whole quarter.
Wow.
So they only have, when I talked to them about a week ago, they only had about 20-some properties improved that were listed for sale. And so it's hot up there. And what you just said, people are getting their prizes. Now, Randy told me, he says he feels some of it is the COVID effect. There's more people looking
unrest
for,
too, you know, in big cities.
yeah, looking out, getting away from urban, looking
Yeah.
for properties to buy. So he thinks that'll cool off, but right now it's definitely hot. So
Sure.
Take it while you can get it.
there you go.
Any other discussion on this?
I'm good.
All right, I'll make a motion for request approval of order setting property tax rate 2020 property tax year. Can I
I'll
have-
second that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Steve.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, you're next, huh?
Another one.
All right.
Okay, agenda item 19, request approval to create a new job description, a GIS coordinator that handles the CIS and mapping duties, and to save the county approximately $40,000 plus benefits annually. Steve?
Okay, that's supposed to be GIS instead of CIS, I see that. But, so here's the whole motivation behind this, and what's been going on. When I talked to HR, they told me if I wanted to list a new job description or a new job title, that I had to go through the commission to do that. So, we have a chief currently, Steve Dutel, who is retiring September the 18th. He currently makes $53,276. So, and he's considered a very good GIS guy. Has a lot of experience. We're really losing a premium person in the county with his retirement. And we had a mapper, Joseph. We hired Joseph a little over 2 years ago, Donahue, and he's currently, or was currently, making $37,748. Now, when I hired him because of his computer skills, not because of his GIS background, but it's very important for this position to have some really good computer skills. So we sent him to some training, and he was learning a lot from Steve, our chief, and then he decided he didn't like the job, so he quit us about a week or two ago.
Ugh.
So basically, we're going to have nobody after the 18th of September in working in mapping. So, and here's the issue with the coordinator position. We already had a mapper position, which I don't plan on at this point putting in, and we already had a chief position on the books. So I wanted to create something in the middle, GIS coordinator, because I know how hard it is, first of all, to find that. And finding a GIS like chief, I thought might be pretty hard. So I kind of dropped that down to the GIS coordinator level. Now, here's the problem. I didn't do it to get a new position or more money. It was just to create flexibility to have all three of those jobs if I could find find somebody to put in there. We, on August the 17th, we listed GIS coordinator. We have not got one application. One person so far since then has not applied for that job. So it puts me into a little bit of another, mode here, or another way of looking at this. I want to hire whoever I can get. It might be that if I can't get a chief, right, which I really didn't want to hire originally, but if somebody shows up with 6-7 years of experience and I can hire a chief, I will. But my plan is not to have two people doing mapping and GIS. My plan was only to do one, which would save the county the money that I'm saying here. So, but if I can get a coordinator, that would be great. And guess what? If I can't get a coordinator or a chief to apply that kind of experience, I'm going to have to figure out how to put a mapper in there and start training them. So, and here's the problem it causes after the 18th also is if we're still looking, my Amber, my front two people are going to have more work to do. Amber is going to be, she's been training a little bit with Steve, who's leaving us, for some of that mapping stuff, but it's just a start. She doesn't have any clue how that all works. So she's been training a little, so she's going to have some more work to do, and that will cause some problems on the window, potentially, because if she's got to do more work with that, with splits and things like that, and work with that, then that's going to take her away from taking care of customers. So that'll put a little bit of some work on maybe Mitzi, the other window person. So I have to decide what I'm going to do pretty quickly with that. I might have to hire another admin person just to be able to get through this until I can get a mapper or somebody or whatever. So, but the main reason I wanted to bring this to you was have the flexibility to say any one of those three positions I could hire, but my plan is not to hire two in GIS. I think one will work in GIS. We just have to get one in GIS. over the past so many years, and also talking to Steve on his way out. He feels like we can get along with one, and I do too, just based on what I've seen. So
When you advertise, did you just advertise locally, or did it go out on the internet
I
wide
think
open?
We advertise on Indeed.
On what?
Indeed.com. And the paper, and the website, and with NMAC, so it does go pretty far.
it's a really niche position, and it's hard to find the computer background, and then, you know, being able to read the legal stuff. You know, your property starts on half of this section, whatever like that. They've got to be able to really, you know, read that information. And our person who does the titles and that sort of stuff, Amber, can do some of that work. But then some of the computer and stuff like that is you know. So that's what I'm doing. So my intention is not to spend more money, but to save money. But then my big thing is I got to get somebody in there, and if I can't get somebody in there right away, then my next move would be, first of all, we're saving $53 for the chief and $37 for the mapper. I might have to get another admin person just so I can kind of keep stuff going in the office before I can even get a mapper in or something like that. So it's just one day at a time. I'm just disappointed that, you know, we haven't got even anybody apply at this point.
I think the qualifications are pretty stiff, and like you said, it's a niche market, you know. That
Yeah.
It's not necessarily something somebody comes up and goes, hey, I went to GIS school.
And the coordinator has got, I don't know if you've read the job description, but there's definitely a lot of technical skill that's involved there. So it might end up that I'm starting off again with a mapper in our office, you know, in the near
Start
future.
sending them to training.
Which would mean, yeah, training and that sort of thing, but I would list that job, you know, if we feel like we're going nowhere with the other ones. I'm working on trying to get another person that's very qualified from another county at this point, so.
That's typically a good way to get
She's
them.
waiting for somebody, she's waiting for somebody to retire, and she just sold her house, and I think she's ready for the next step up, and hopefully she's a very good person. I'm trying to get her over here, or at least apply. So that's really it, unless you have some other questions. That's what I was kind of doing. It evolves day to day.
It's some definite shuffling on the board there to make this work, and that's typically what we do anyway.
Well, Steve, do we need to approve what you're doing here, or do we need to wait and see which way you're going to go on it? Whether you have to hire an admin person is, I mean.
Yeah. Well, I would like, hopefully, for you to approve this new GIS coordinator position, but it doesn't mean you're approving that and two other positions that are already there, the mapper and the chief. I want to be able to, hopefully, if I find the right experience, fill somebody into that, but if it doesn't work, then I'm going to be doing the chief thing. But with my mapper gone and my chief gone, I might have to put an admin in, which would start out at like $32,000 or whatever. So the money is in the budget.
Yeah.
There's not an issue with the money. So, but yeah, I'd like you to prove to have that position available.
It just gives you some latitude on.
Yes, flexibility on the
yeah.
position. Because the ranges are going to be different for what a mapper gets, for what a coordinator and the chief gets, so.
It's like depending on the education level and experience.
Yes.
All right, any other discussion?
I'm good, thank you.
All right, I'd make a motion to request approval to create a new job description, the GIS coordinator that handles the GIS and mapping duties, and to save the county approximately $40,000 plus benefits annually.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Good
Okay.
luck.
Thank you, ladies, gentlemen.
Thank you, Steve.
Appreciate your time, and what are you doing?
I'm out of here.
It's cold. Is it cold in this room?
Yes.
Oh my God, I'm only not cold, I'm shaking.
I know, and if it wasn't for the COVID, we could all snuggle together, but that's just not happening anymore.
All right, thank you.
Okay, agenda item number 20, discuss and consider opting out of the payroll tax deferral. Julianne, you want to give us a little?
Yes, hello again, Commissioners. Julianne Hall, Otero County Finance Director. So on August 8th, President Trump signed an executive order, issued a memorandum on deferring payroll tax obligations in light of the ongoing COVID-19 disaster. On August 28th, the Secretary of the Treasury and the Internal Revenue Service issued additional guidance on this matter through Notice 2020-65. But this guidance that was issued was actually very vague, and there's a lot of questions that are still unanswered. There's been a lot of discussions going on through like the New Mexico County Attorneys Affiliate Group and the New Mexico County Managers Affiliate Groups that indicate that most other counties are not going to opt into this. They're not going to participate because of the implementation problems, potential hardship to employees to repay the money next year, and the complication of what happens if someone now working for the county terminates before their obligation to repay those deferred taxes has been met in full. And if that happens, the county, we can't pay employees' taxes. That would be actually in violation of the anti-donation clause. So I did include in the agenda item the actual memorandum from the president and the Notice 2020-65 from the IRS. There was also some information that was sent out by Jaramillo Accounting Group. They're in Albuquerque, and it's probably the best summary that I have seen of this. Basically, so this is affecting, the affected taxpayer are the employers, not the employees. So essentially, they cannot compel the employers to take part in this. It's the employer's choice, since there's no participation requirement in the notice. Let's see. And this only affects the employee's share of Social Security, which is their 6.2%. The Medicare portion, the 1.45%, is not affected. We're still going to pay that. The employer's portion of 6.2% will still be paid. It's basically the employer's match to the employee's portion. So the employer's portion will still be paid, but it's just the employee's 6.2% Social Security tax that may be deferred if that employee essentially makes less than $4,000 per biweekly payroll, which turns out to be about $104,000 per year. Let's see some of the other items in here. So the taxes themselves, this is not just free money. This is actually just a deferral, meaning that anything that is not paid between September and December of this year is going to have to be essentially like double collected next year, starting in January through the month of April. So that's where the problem comes in if somebody leaves before they're able to pay off their entire obligation, and if we're not able to maybe take it from their final paycheck, there's still an obligation out there that the employee would owe, but it's also the employer's kind of on the hook, but in New Mexico that would be anti-donation, so that creates some issues there. There is no assurance right now that Congress will pass a forgiveness provision. That being said, we do know that federal employees and military are automatically being opted into this, and they do not have a choice. If they make less than the threshold, they make less than $104,000 per year, they cannot opt out. It will be deferred for them starting in September through December, and then it will be double collected in January. But the feeling on this is that if federal employees are automatically opted in, it's likely that the tax will be forgiven. So then what happens if the tax is forgiven and we didn't opt into it? Well, then all of our employees just missed out on a potential windfall. One other thing that I'd like to say, though, is that some of the counties, there's been emails going back and forth. And one of the emails was from Alan Davis in Eddy County. And basically what he's saying is that all of their employees have been working the entire time. We haven't really had that much of a hardship for our employees. And it's the implementation of it and having to track this for, let's say we opt into it and we allow employees to choose to do it whether they want to. If they don't want to do it, they don't have to opt into it. If they want to do it, we have to track that. So my one payroll person will have to track this for everyone, and then when it comes up to the next, in January, we're essentially going to have to show the amount that was deferred and split it across like the 9 pay periods between January and April, because as you know, the taxes or the number of hours that you worked between January and April may not be the same as the hours that you worked between September and December. So the withholdings would be slightly different.
So my
you-
head's spinning just listening to you right now.
Yeah, it's complicated.
That's gonna be a nightmare
Yes.
for payroll.
Right.
That's horrific. I can't
agree.
even imagine, especially if your software has no capability to do that. You have to do it
Basically, we have contacted our software, and they have given us some guidance on how to create, we would create a separate code specifically for that so that it would pull only the Social Security tax from the employer side and nothing from the employee. But we would still have to track that, and we'd still have to make sure then that we, you know, the amount that was deferred, that's the dollar amount that is repaid back to the government. So, and it's something that's going to affect the W-2s, because in the W-2s, you know, that's where your, the total amount of the taxes that was withheld would be on there. So it wouldn't affect people as far as their like federal withholding and what they might owe to the IRS, you know, for federal, or to the state for state taxes at the end of the year. I don't really know. There's nothing that's been put out as to how is this going to affect them Social Security wise, as far as, I don't know, we just don't know if it's going to be deferred. If they have to pay it back, it shouldn't really matter, because you're going to be paying into the system. There's a certain number of months or quarters that you have to have in order to be eligible to receive Social Security benefits. But if it's waived, I don't know how that's going to affect anything. And that's the problem right now. We don't have enough information really to determine whether or not this is a good thing for us to do. It's possible they may waive it. And then what happens when we didn't opt into it? Are we going to have angry employees because we opted out of it? Or, you know, that's why we wanted to bring this to you, to have you discuss it and try to decide, is it worth the risk of them possibly waiving it? Or do we want to put ourselves through this whole process and have to track everything and try and pay it back? And it's going to be difficult. There might be employees that think, oh yeah, this is great, you know, 6.2%, I'll get more in my paycheck between now and December, and then January hits, and it's after the holidays, and now suddenly we're double collecting, and it's going to hit them hard. What if we have employees that opt into this that have other garnishments? You know, it's going to affect their disposable income. What takes precedence? The garnishment, probably, or the payroll tax.
So
you know, how's that going to work? What if they have no disposable income enough to pay this back within, you know, to be reasonable? So there hasn't been, some of those questions like that are still unanswered. And I know that a lot of this had gone through the county manager and the county attorney affiliates, and I don't know if either of you would like to give any input on your thoughts.
The county manager's affiliate has been talking about this for a good week or so, and the majority of them are opting out. There's just too many unanswered questions. There's too much risk for the employee to be put in a position where they can't pay it back. A lot of them are worried about what happens if they quit. The county's on the hook for the payment. So the majority of the counties are looking at opting out at the moment.
That's the consensus on my mailing list too.
Yeah, that's what I've been getting.
You could sure end up with egg on your face on this deal, huh?
Yeah, either way. There's really not a good answer here.
No,
I'm really tired of those. This is just not a good answer either way.
May I ask a question? Is
Yeah.
that allowed?
You stand up and state your name.
Cheryl Malberly. I own Executive Accounting. So if you opt out of it and you go ahead and take the tax out of theirs, and then later they say they're going to waive it, all you've done is paid into your Social Security.
Right.
Where all those other people did not pay into their Social Security.
Right.
So it's still, I mean, I realize Social Security isn't what it's supposed to be, but you're still paying into your fund. It's not like
That's true.
you've lost the money. It's gone into your Social Security.
Sure.
That's a good point. Thank you.
That ought to soften the blow. Just a tiny bit. Delayed gratification.
So I don't understand why, say a county employee quits, and this is if he goes into this, you cannot, wherever he goes to work, garnish his wages for reimbursement?
That's the question, because
If he goes
while
to
the
work.
If what?
If he goes to work.
Well,
right, and also the counties we cannot pay the employee's portion of the tax. That's anti-donation. So that's a conflict right there. If they leave, we're still sort of on the hook for it if it hasn't been waived by, by the government, by Congress. But yet we can't pay it because it's against anti-donation. So, what do we do at that point? We try and collect it from that individual. You may not be able to collect it. Hopefully there would be enough within their final paycheck that would cover that, and we can legally take it from a final paycheck if they leave. But what if they leave the first week in January and they have that whole 4-month period to pay back, and maybe their final check, maybe they only worked a few hours and they don't have enough to cover it? We can bill them for it. I don't know what would happen at that point. That's one of the questions that has not really been answered. It's very, very vague guidance that was issued.
Any other discussion? Laura?
No, sir.
All right. I'll make a motion to discuss and consider opting out of the payroll tax deferral. Can I get a second on this?
I will second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Julianne. Wear your face mask when you go outside. Okay, item 21. Request approval and adoption of Otero County Community Health Assessment submitted by Amber.
Sorry, just make sure my phone isn't quiet. Okay.
And Amber, if you'd like to take your mask off to talk, you can.
I'll keep it on.
Whatever you want to do.
So, perfect. We have it on. I do just want to say that Dr. Holly Motto is not able to join us today. She has other engagements at this time, so I am doing the presentation. However, if there are questions that you have that I am not able to answer, she's available by phone. That's why I have my phone here with me. So my name is Amber Mayhall. I am the Otero County Healthcare Services Director, and we conducted a community health assessment. It started out as for the purpose of our department. However, we wanted the scope of this project to be very broad and wide, community-wide and system-wide. Because our population, our demographic that we serve is a low-income population, and if we can make system and county-wide improvements, that greatly affects our low-income population for access to health services and safety net services as well. So this is Otero County's first community health assessment. I have to say it's been my pleasure working on this project. We had a lot of people working on this. So let's go ahead. Next slide. So I do want to thank specifically the 1,200 plus community members who participated in the survey, the community engagement forums, or both. Their input into this was incredibly important, and it's the entire purpose of a community health assessment. It's to gather community input specifically about public health topics that we may not know about from quantifiable data, but we're getting qualified data. We also had an advisory and core team. These teams were voluntary and from organizations like Gerald Champion. We had Presbyterian on our advisory team. We also had Holloman Air Force Base personnel on our advisory team. And the core team was comprised of volunteer personnel from various state and local agencies. Next slide. So our department specifically, the Healthcare Services Department,
Over the years, this department has reported significant decrease in healthcare assistance program spending. This is mostly due to the implementation of the Affordable Care Act and the expansion of Medicaid. The low-income population that we serve who did not have access to medical and healthcare services now do primarily through Medicaid. So in response to these changing needs and resources, Otero County needs to strategically redesign this program. And we need to do this by meeting today's priorities, needs, and expectations of the community. Even though people may have public or private health insurances, there are gaps in services that still must be addressed. So that is why it's important to continue with this program. It is Otero County's responsibility to identify, prioritize, and address these services specifically for our low-income population. Now, the healthcare assistance program is a small portion of the public health system, and to ensure a measurable and effective change for Otero County healthcare community health assessment that is system and county-wide, supported by dedicated and broad community partnerships working together to develop this shared vision is the reason why we needed a community health assessment. Next slide. So yes, so we all want to live want a healthy community. We all want the services that make living in Otero County worth living here. And every person in Otero County should reach their full health potential. As you know, the COVID crisis has kind of shined a light on certain health inequities in our communities. And we do have a responsibility, and now we actually have an opportunity to invest in community and policy improvements that support health and health equities for everybody. Next slide. The purpose and scope of this process, the community health assessment. So we did contract with the Counseling Center and partnered with the Otero County Health Council and other stakeholders to gather community input and share existing population health data and identify community priorities, resources, and strategies to improve our community health and healthcare systems. This community health assessment is guided by a modified mobilization through planning and partnerships approach. This is a nationally recognized practice, and it is supported by the Public Health Accreditation Board, which, just so you know, we're not trying to be accredited. Next slide. So, specifically, our healthcare assessment, community health assessment focuses on social determinants of health. These are circumstances and environments in which we live and impact our opportunities to choose healthy behaviors. So basically, the short saying goes, health happens where we live, love, learn, labor, play, and pray. These factors do affect our opportunities to choose healthy behaviors, our access to health care and health outcomes, and this assessment provides the local data for selected health outcomes prioritized at state and national levels, and social determinants of health that contribute to inequities in these outcomes. Next slide. The data sources that we utilized for this assessment are sustainable, reliable, and replicable. The data is not from a random source that may be proven to have been a mismanagement of data, or it's not from a random survey. They're from data sources that are reliable and put out through certain authorities, specifically like the U.S. Census Bureau.
So where does the information come from, did you say again?
These websites here is where they come from.
Okay.
So those are the ones listed, like the New Mexico Indicator-Based Informational System, or New Mexico IDIS.
Okay.
That's where the Department of Health displays their data that they collect. Next slide. So this report highlights existing population health data, specifically these listed here. And it also indicates, the report indicates why this data is important and certain best practices and actions that can be taken. Next slide. So, of course, like I said earlier, one of the most important parts of the community health assessment is the inclusion of the community. So, what did that look like? Next slide. So, we had participants from all over Otero County share their perceptions about their communities, healthcare systems, their access to healthcare, and overall quality of life. We had approximately a 6-month distribution period where we collected enough input from the community and provided enough opportunities for the community to participate. We had approximately 858 participants complete the survey. The majority of respondents did reside in Alamogordo. Next slide. So we promoted and distributed the survey throughout Otero County through a variety of channels. These included community meetings, networks, special events, community and faith-based organizations, county communication channels, radio, news, print, and social media. And this is an example of the invitations that we used. Next slide. So again, between March and December 2019, we held 7 open public forums, and these were in all of the community centers owned by Otero County, and we had approximately 20 community engagement sessions. And we also invited local experts to participate in key stakeholder interviews, and these were conducted in person or by email. And these key stakeholder interviews were primarily community members with expertise in public health, healthcare administration and clinical care, mental health, law enforcement, education, juvenile justice, and ministry. We tried to get as broad of a perspective of the community as possible. Next slide. So here we have a couple of examples of the questions that were asked in the survey. These particular questions relate to having a voice, transportation, and educational opportunities. As mentioned before, these are related to social determinants of health. You can see that the answers are mostly positive in nature. However, there's also a high negative perception with the answers of these questions. So what you can infer from this is even though we are doing a good job in the county as a whole, there still needs to be some improvement. Also note that in these questions, it doesn't specifically identify Otero County, a government, as an issue. This is Otero County as a whole, whether it's city or county governments or other local governments or other communities. It's their perception as a whole. Next slide. So here we have examples of the questions we asked on economic opportunities, housing, and safety. Awesomely, we have a great perception about the safety in Otero County. I think that's amazing. But we do have a very low perception of our economic opportunities here and the ability for people to afford quality housing. So those are issues that the community, that we need to work on as a whole in ensuring that there is an economic improvement and that there is affordable and quality housing, which I also believe is addressed in the comprehensive plan. Next slide. So the recommendations in this assessment are scientifically supported and achievable for rural communities like Otero County. Nothing in the assessment that's recommended are hugely expensive, hard to conduct, difficult to improve. this is our starting point. So the suggestions and recommendations for all of these subject areas are achievable within our means. Next slide. So this is a resource and a foundation. You know, this document helps invest in the community and helps with policy improvement and support health and health equity for everybody. And it is my hope, it's, you know, everyone who worked on this is hope that this assessment is a valuable resource for not only the city, for any incorporated area and county government, educational institutions, healthcare organizations, nonprofit, and other community-based organizations. The thing is, the community health assessment, when applying for certain grants and certain funding, will require a community health assessment of some nature. And being that this is backed and paid for by Otero County gives it a lot more weight and reliability when institutions are applying for certain healthcare grants or public health grants. So this is step one. The next step after doing a community health assessment is to work on doing a community improvement plan. And that is where we gather community input on how to take the actions necessary to address the issues in the community health assessment. So I tried to make this very, very short and quick. So, but that is all that I have for you. We can end the presentation. And if you have any questions.
I do.
Okay.
On some of these studies here, first I want to thank you for all your hard work. It's very good, everybody that helped you, super. If you go back to your studies, it's giving you the adjusted rates, death per 100,000 population, 5-year. When you take cancer, for example.
What page is that?
Page 9. Otero County has the highest percentage over the whole rest of the New Mexico.
Very high.
So everything I've read in here, the only thing that Otero County is not the highest in is alcoholism and drug addiction.
Mm-hmm.
That's shocking.
How is Otero County that bad?
We do have a high rate of cancer. Why, I couldn't tell you. There are speculations as to what that is. But that is bad.
Yeah. I mean, the highest rate of suicide, the highest rate of heart disease, diabetics. I was bummed whenever I read this. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that need to be addressed in the community. Yes, and these listed, mind you, are the top, the leading 5. So that's why they are listed and why it's kind of like, what? So, and these can be addressed with certain implementations, which I do believe, like what we can do. There are certain ones that say what we can do. Others, it's early screening. It's making sure that people live, eat healthy and active living, the HEAL that's mentioned in this report. Some of these can be prevented with that. A lot of this stuff here can be done and addressed with preventative measures. Even with suicide, there are preventative measures that can be taken into consideration. We do need to meet these, and these are our top 5.
Are you working at all with the city as far as any collaboration with them in the study? And
on this study, they did participate.
They what?
There was participation from the city on this.
Okay.
Yeah. We also are working with them on the 100% community.
Yeah, I just found those numbers very. It's really made my eyes open up real quick to see. I would have never have thought that. I mean, we do have a lot of pluses in Otero County besides that. We have a lot of, be thankful for our mountains or fresh air and all that, the things that we can do here. But
And I will say a lot of this, like the cancer, the heart disease, a lot of that can be covered under generalized insurance. I can tell you my program cannot afford to assist people with cancer. That's the only problem, like specifically with this department. We don't have those funds. But we can utilize this as a way, excuse me, to improve our healthcare system. These numbers for, being that we do have a high rate of cancer, that means that we need more cancer services here locally, not in Albuquerque, not in Houston, Texas. We need cancer services here locally. So those are the kinds of things that can come out when we do just isolate these numbers and tell people these are our numbers and our rates and why we need to increase and expand services.
all right. Again, thank you very much for all you. Anybody have anything to comment on it?
This is so much information. I don't know how you're going to figure a place to start. This is a lot of information, and it's done very well. Congratulations on this.
Thank you. I can't take any credit for the writing of the report. Like I said, this was Dr. Holly Mata. She has been a wealth of knowledge in the community as well as just for me. And we really lucked out with her being the author of this report. In general, these kinds of reports can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we spent a fraction of that. So the true thanks goes to her and her team.
Yeah. We're very thankful. This is really good stuff.
All right. Any other discussion? All right. I'd like to make a motion to approve and request approval and adoption of the Otero County Community Health Assessment.
A second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Amber.
Thank you.
All right, item 22, request approval of the final plat. Request approval of the final plat approval for 3D subdivision in Chaparral. Mark, you gonna?
Come on, Chief. We're in agreement, so. We're in agreement? We're in agreement. I'm Mark Prutt, the Otero County Planning Commission Vice Chairman, and
I'm Marvin McGee. I'm the engineer on this, representing Mr. Colquitt for the 3D subdivision. I'll let you go first, sir.
Okay.
That way you can.
The only, going through this process, the only discrepancy we had was for the subdivision's roads, and that was Mr. McGee went back to the developer and they built the roads up to the standard that our chairman, Mr. Herrera, unfortunately couldn't be here today because he was in Houston on a business meeting for about a week and a half, so he came back and he's in self-quarantine right now, so that's why I'm here. So anyway, that was the only thing that we had to fix, and it took some time, but Tom went out there and checked the roads, and it's been built up, and we just want you to prove it now. Everything's a go.
So we had a total agreement between the
Yes.
subdivider and the committee. Everything is up to, you build them up to county specs, correct?
The state specs.
Yes.
Well,
Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
First, I want to, real quickly, I want to thank you, sir. I want to thank you, Commissioner Bees, Commissioner Griffin. And I really want to thank county staff. I want to thank County Road Department for their participation. And I want to thank, this is coming from me, because this is my favorite county to work in.
That's so nice to hear.
No, and that's not an understatement. It really is. It's a pleasure. I work throughout the state. And I'm going to say this, that the Planning Commission has been great, Commission has been great, administration's great, road department, different, emergency services has been great, and it's a rarity.
To find that all in one?
Yeah. So, again, thank you.
Where's the next subdivision you're gonna be working on?
well-
After you just fired everybody up?
That's coming next week.
See you next.
And the other thing I want to be thankful for was all the rain we had. In through most of the state. It was a little late in the year, but it definitely needed. Some of the people like Wes got more than they really should have.
3.5 inches, he said he got out there?
Dimming, there was one that they recorded 5.8 inches.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and that's almost borderline way too much.
Yeah.
It's
Closed
definitely
down
more than
the
soil
road
control.
between Deming and Silver City. There was about 3 feet of water going over the road. But anyway, enough said there. Again, thank you so much. I'm here to request approval on the final plat approval for 3DD subdivision. Now, I want to clarify something. On the preliminary plat, what we had done is the developer wanted to maintain it as private roads. And that was approved by the commission, and that was approved by the planning commission. So what, in discussing with the developer, they had, I went to him and said, look, let's do something a little different. Let me engineer the roads. So that's what happened. He realized it actually saved him money. And anyway, long story short, because this has been a long meeting, I want to get it over with as well you do. The Planning Commission has reviewed all changes, and the only thing that's changed from preliminary plat to final plat is the developer will be requesting county maintenance of the roads after the 2-year period of making sure they're not falling apart and so forth. They were built in accordance with specifications of Otero County, and in fact, for the most part, we meet state specs in Doñana County specifications for the road. And so I am here today to ask the commission for final plat approval on this subdivision. Questions?
No, not as long as the planning committee, they've approved it and everything is good and Tom's happy with it. That's
Tom's
all we can
upset
ask
with
for.
me because I made him come out and look several times.
Ms. McGee, I do want, just to clarify something, you will be coming back to us to request the 2-year maintenance period, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, that's
That
what I
is
wanted-
correct. I mean,
okay,
it's a
yes.
2-year maintenance period that
I
the
just want to make
developer.
sure that we're not starting that 2-year period now that that's not what you're requesting along with the final plat approval. I wanted to make that clear.
Right, and what's gonna happen is the roads have been completed. They're finishing up the power line right now, and this is 100% constructed. They've got another 3 or 4 days on power line, is my understanding. And then all utilities are in, completely constructed, everything. At that point, then the 2-year period will start, and we'll come back in.
Petition for the 2-year.
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion?
No, I'll make a motion to approve final plat for 3DD subdivision Chaparral.
I'll
Otero
second.
County, New Mexico.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you,
sir.
I was gonna go to the assessor's office and apply for a job. But then the the health, I came in and told me that, and I said, I'm not moving to Otero County.
Get me the cancer then.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Good to see you.
It's always good to see you.
I need signatures. I'll hang around and, if we can.
As always, our mission is to try and prevent problems down the road, so to speak, forgive the pun, But years from now, and some of the examples around the county that we've accepted roads, and they've fallen apart long after the developer's gone away. So that's our main thrust, especially with roads, because they're everything to this county.
No, we've got a good planning and zoning board, so we really appreciate you guys doing the extra work that you're doing.
It's our pleasure to serve out and help you folks avoid some of the controversies that you've had in front of you.
That's right.
That's our main aim. So.
Appreciate you, Mark. Thank
Okay.
you, sir.
Thank you.
Have a good afternoon.
All right, agenda item number 23. Request approval to convert a part-time position to a full-time position at the Otero County Animal Shelter. Good afternoon, or morning, yeah.
Just barely. Yeah, Lori Soto, shelter manager. I didn't bring like any really additional stuff. I think it was pretty much, we put out there our points on why you're requesting that. I apologize for having to request in addition, after the budget's already started, but as you can see by our yearly numbers, we're already almost what we were at the end of last year. I don't do it fiscal to fiscal like that. We usually do it January, and so you can see that we're already like almost where we're at.
Right.
Yeah, and it's I don't really see a decrease in the near future. We're getting a lot of pressure from some of the other areas like the city. I go ahead and accept a lot of animals because people are in Otero County. I don't know what they got going on over there, but we're getting a lot of their business. And same thing down in El Paso. I have people calling me and I turn them away, but I know they get dumped over in Chaparral, and I just don't see that area, especially with all the growth and stuff dropping. Yeah, so it's just kind of whether we can or cannot do it, I guess, at this point. And then if not, then we'll just have to figure out another plan. So, but we just figured we would ask. And Julianne did. I don't know if you guys got that. She did give me a printout on whatever cost, the additional costs on it. I didn't know if that was in there. Yeah, because she did give that to me on Friday.
I don't.
Just to give you an idea with the benefits, what that would end up costing extra. Because they do have benefits since it would be going to a full-time, but, yeah.
With the numbers on your euthanization, it's gone down quite a bit.
It really has,
Is there
yeah.
a reason why are you just trying to keep more animals alive?
Well, an
or-
example, like today, we had a transport went out with 19 dogs on it, went to Phoenix area.
What was it?
A transport to a no-kill shelter in Phoenix.
Okay.
We've been working with Halo up there. Yeah. And, thank God for our volunteers that we have. They foot a lot of the bill and they do put in a lot of hours at the shelter. They've really helped to offset our hours and stuff in the past. But I've leaned pretty heavily, especially on Buddy. He is like an unpaid employee. He's there like every day dealing with the dogs. And even on top of that, we've just had a lot of people coming in. I guess, I don't know if it's because they're off work. We do have to make appointments and stuff, but we do have a pretty steady flow, lots of phone calls. And like I specified in there, I'm at the counter, I got the phone ring, and I'm trying to do an adoption. I've got somebody wanting to look at dogs. And so when they're available, they're very helpful.
Sure.
But yeah, it is nice to have that second person. I've been kind of using my part-time quite a bit, and it really does make a difference. Plus just, to me, the safety factor of being able to have two people there. Like right now, I've got two that are there petitioning for dangerous dog. They've got a Cloud Cock, and we've got them in our facility. I don't know how long we're going to have them. No one's supposed to go in there, but if for some reason they were to get out or attack somebody, we do get dogs like that in there, and we had that hoarding, or sort of a hoarding case or neglect case. We did finally get them moved out of there, but that was like 20 plus dogs. So that's on top of these numbers because they don't go anywhere. They're still there. So when we get those, it really does add extra hours and whatnot. So yeah, and the full time would be more in administrative side of it, like I said, being there. So there's two of us there during the day. So like a lot of times I'm on the phone. For some reason our phone calls are up quite a bit. I'll be on the phone, Loretta's at the counter, we've got people coming in, and with the sign-in thing with all the temperature.
Right.
And then that way too, we can kind of escort them down into the kennels as opposed to just turn them loose, because if we have a fall or we have something, we sidestepped it, but there was sort of a lawsuit a while back that we got it cleared up, that a dog had jumped up on her. Luckily, I was in there with her at the time, and so she tried to sue us over it, and we did get past that. But I kind of don't like having people in there. They open cages, and everybody on that side should be friendly, but there's always that potential that if something happens, and you just can't watch everybody.
Yeah,
with one
personality
person.
clash or whatever, yeah. for
Yeah, with
sure.
one person there, at least that way there's two of us kind of got one, plus our volunteers that are there, so. Yeah, that's why we requested it, like I said, I don't know if it's in the budget or not, but I figured we could ask for it and see.
You go up every year, the amount of dogs and
Yeah,
animals that
it's
you're
increasing.
handling. It's crazy.
I think this is gonna be our highest year. I'm looking to hit 1,500. Because last year we hit 13, and like I said, that was including those hold dogs that we had there for 5 months. That they don't even really figure into those numbers. But we did finally get them moved out of there. So just where we're going now, I'm thinking we could easily hit 1,500 by the end of the year.
Julianne, I got a kind of question for you on this, because the numbers, the dollar numbers on the adoption fees and everything has increased. What is on our budget for that, with the increase of will that add for paying for?
The increase in the adoption fees definitely helps to offset the increase in the salary, that's true. And for this, I did budget for, or I would budget for full family insurance. So whoever gets the position may not take that, and so it may not be the full, so there's about $35,000 increase from the part-time to a full-time if that full-time person takes full benefits. So it's potentially it won't be that much. It's not often, well, occasionally we do have people who take the full benefits. So it could potentially be up to $35,000 for salary and benefits, but yeah, the increase in the adoption fees and everything does help to offset that. The remainder of it is just a general fund expense.
But isn't the position that you're wanting to do is a part-time position now,
Just
correct?
convert it to a
Turn
full-time.
that into a
Right,
full-time.
yeah, right.
So what,
We're saving the money from the part-time position and applying it towards a full-time position essentially.
so it
But
would
there's
be,
still an additional cost. Basically, the biggest additional cost is the potential for the insurance, because part-timers,
Don't
they
get it.
they don't get the insurance, but a full-timer, you have that option.
so from the part-time wages, you're saying there would be an increase of 35,000? Is that what you
If
said?
Yeah, but if they take the full insurance, it could be up to $35,000. The wage itself would remain the same, $13.60 an hour. Currently, the part-time, that's about $14,000 a year, so that's going to go up to $28,000 plus, Social Security, Medicare, para for sure, and then whatever insurance they would take. So it could potentially be an increase of about $35,000. Most likely, it will be a little bit less than that.
Because I'd spoken with HR about if there was any way that we could just, maybe, because a lot of places, part-time is 32 hours or less, but the way ours is set up, we're not allowed to do that. Because I would have even been happy with that, if we could have put it up like 30, or even, keep my 2 part-timers and give each of them 10 more hours or whatever, and do it that way even. So yeah, we tried to look at it every way, and I did speak with her, in HR and stuff, and with the para thing and all that, I think is where the sticking point, they only do that 20 hours. So it's kind of all or nothing. Other than that, I would have been happy to keep them part-time, and we could have worked it out, just, going ahead and moving people in there, but it kind of sticks us to either stay where we're at or have to make it a full-time position, so.
So one other little quick question, and I'm sure you thought about this. Could you hire another part-time person?
If that's what you guys want to do, like I said, I'm open to whatever is going to work the best. It's just having where I can have that other person in the afternoon, like in the morning, we're in there cleaning and stuff, and with the increase in animals, so I do have all 3 of my part-timers in there in the morning, and I come in, so if I need help, I help them as I go, or I get the deposit ready and all that stuff, so if they only have 2 of them that day. But yeah, if we did a part-time, then that would be okay, then I could have a part-time in the afternoon, and then just still have my 3 in the morning, and have one kind of a floater that can kind of cover everything too, if that's more financially.
Julianne, wouldn't that be less expensive to the county, or working more into the budget?
Because a part-time person
They don't
would
take
not
part.
get the
They don't get
insurance.
insurance. Yeah.
Right.
They can opt into para if they wish to, but they're not offered the insurance. So it would be a little bit less expensive, that's true. It's up to you all, however you want to do it.
Is it significantly, or just barely?
So full insurance is $18,000. So you'd be potentially saving $18,000 because that person would not be taking insurance.
Plus the salary doesn't
The
double for
salary,
one
you know,
position.
it would be an additional,
It's
you know,
still
about
the
$14,000 a year, plus Social Security, Medicare, and if they choose para, and that would be about another, I don't know, maybe $1,500 on top of that, so.
18,000 is 18,000.
It's, well, it would be the difference between about 15,000 and potentially like an additional 15,000 or an additional like 34,000. So
They could amend it. We don't have to be specific. They could amend it.
And basically those benefits, yeah, I think they, on the
They could go
paper,
to
it's
some
like
considered
18
position. I
something,
think
ends
we
up being
could.
on the benefit part
Just
of it.
amend it.
Because like I said, the other ones, and when they start right now, they would be at the 1260, a new position. The 1360, yeah, because that's my senior person, which is who I would request if they did convert it to the full-time, is that, you know, if they're able to do that, because I thought she's been there heading into 6 years. And so, you know, I thought that, you know, would be the person that I would put in the full-time. But if you decide on a part-time, that also would be $1 less, because it's only at 1260 right now for the other two, when they got their raise.
Is there part-time people out there?
I've got 3 part-timers right now. I've got my one that's been almost 6 years. The other 2 came in last year. They've been there about a year now. They're at 1260 with the new raise that we got, and she's at 1360. Like I said, she's been there, it'll be 6 years in December. So
Yeah,
they're-
could you find another part-timer?
I'm sure if we posted it, that there would be someone that would, yeah, because, you know, we go through the hiring process and everything like that. So I'm sure somebody would fit in for it. So we always have several applications when it goes out there. It's just a matter of, yeah, I didn't know, you know, stability on the workforce and all that. I figured that's why I presented to you and see how you guys wanted to do it.
I appreciate all you guys' hard work, Lori, and the service that you do, but with where we're at right now, in the uncertainty of moving forward and financially,
Yeah, I understand that, definitely.
I myself personally, I wouldn't support growing the department at all myself right now. Now, later on, once we get through all this,
Yeah, I know that puts a,
all
yeah,
this
that puts a big
coronavirus
factor into
stuff
it.
and all
Absolutely.
the craziness, and November 3rd can't come too soon.
Yeah,
But
and that's
after
all we
get-
could do. That's why I
after
figured all we
get
could do
through
is ask
that,
you,
and
yeah.
and I feel like we're a little bit more stable, and I'd be more supportive of it.
Yeah, yeah, and it's totally understandable. I figured all we could do is ask and see
ma'am.
how you guys felt was the best way to handle it. Because if not, then like I said, we'll just have to look at, okay, how do I schedule where I have that other person in the afternoon, and maybe have to cut out something morning hours and shift it around. But I thought it doesn't hurt to ask. So.
If it was somewhere we had to have something, I would go closer to the part-timer than just for trying to keep it as close as we can to the budget book as we can.
Yeah, yeah, I know everything, yeah, changed, you know, with all of this, absolutely, definitely.
Roy?
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. The part-time position, I know she needs help out there. Those numbers are huge.
And I understand this has started back when, it's David's fault. When he hired the animal control out of Chaparral, when they were bringing
Believe it or,
truckloads.
well, they did, but believe it or not, right now, most of ours are owner surrenders and things like that. I mean, they still bring dogs into us, but most of, yeah, we're dealing with most of it ourselves.
If they don't
That's
have
why
enough
it's
money
been
to
so
feed their
much more
family,
too.
let alone the animals, I get it. That's
Yeah.
awful.
Yeah, well, and then we get a lot of them too, see, since El Paso, because they've got like 3 humane societies, but since they're not doing it, I think we're getting a lot of dumping down there. And we get a lot of people that just call and want to bring them in. And we try to collect, you know, surrender fees where we can on there, but I'm not going to force somebody to try to, you know, we try to collect a 25 surrender fee on them to offset, you know, because we do have to vaccinate them and do this stuff. But some of them, you just can't get it from them. And, you know, it's not worth fighting with somebody over that, you know.
Right.
Julianne, in her budget for a part-timer, would we be exceeding their budget, or is there?
We would probably be exceeding their budget for any new addition, so it would have to be, I would submit it on a budget resolution in October for any addition that you would make. But the general fund could handle that. I mean, the total amount of even a full-timer would be $35,000, and that's something the general fund could handle at this point. So
Well,
yes, the
we
full-time
can't-
could be done. We can do part-time. It would be an additional about 14,000 plus another 1,500, so, you know,
We can't keep hounding on that general fund.
No.
Yeah.
There won't be no general fund
Yeah, at a certain
left.
point, it does, there's a tipping point, but this is actually a fairly nominal amount that it could support.
What about the idea of changing that from a full-time to a part-time? Would you have to submit another deal and come through the agenda again?
No,
Or
the part-time to a full-time.
Yeah, to change the wording in that. Take the full-time out to a part-time position,
An additional part-time position.
an additional part-time.
We can do that on this.
We don't have to give, every detail notice. We gave notice that we're talking about personnel changes at the animal shelter. I think if you wanted to amend the motion to make it a part-time, you're fine. We could do that today.
I'll make a motion to approve an additional part-time position at the Otero County Animal Shelter.
Before we do that, could I ask one more question? In this, through the county cross-utilization, is there, of course, I'm sure everybody's shorthanded, so there's no real extra person hanging around that we could loan to you for a while or something. But
Like a part-time person from somewhere else?
yeah.
Who wants to go clean dog pens this week?
Poo for you.
Okay, scratch that.
Well, I'm hoping, we did hear from the, it was like a New Mexico Works thing or whatever the day, and I did tell her that we were interested in that. I guess that program that they go and they have the person, they pay them, they cover all of their stuff. They come out there, it's like for a training type thing, and then they said that way, maybe in the future you might be open to hiring them. I mean, you don't have to, but it's kind of a job training thing, I guess, that they pay them to do. And I said, yeah, we'd definitely be interested if they have somebody they can send us. Haven't heard anything yet. But I said, yeah, sometimes people get out there for a day or two and it's like, yeah, this is too much like work. and then they don't hang around. So, but we do have that hopefully in the works as well, which may be able to pick up that slack and stuff. Yeah, my thing was, because like I said, yeah, I'm using more hours on my part-timers and we're going to run out of hours. So I thought, yeah, we needed to just address it one way or the other. Either I'll have to just cut them and figure out, or I'll just have to work extra hours, or however we figure it out. But I thought, yeah, but I thought we would ask and see, if we had it or not, and that's what we can do.
What was your, say that again?
The motion was request approval for an additional part-time position at the Otero County Animal Shelter.
I'll second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say nay.
No.
All right. That brings us down to,
Thank you, Lori.
thank you, Lord. That brings us down to, on that is going to be reworded to where it changes to what she said, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, that's bringing us down to commission discussion, correspondence. One thing I'd like to give Trent Parker, our project manager, a big thank you for the job they did on the Chaparral prison, overseeing that. I went down and looked at it the other day. Very good job. So hopefully that is going to be one big headache, or one less big headache from that prison down there. I do have the COVID numbers from, it's from the ICE facility. Read those real quick. Actually, we're doing very good. They have 196 detainees. They've totally tested 1,295. They've had 165 positive cases. They've had 1,130 negative cases, and they have 165 recovered cases. That right there is telling you that we have none of that death rate in there, so that's a good thing for that type of facility. And the staff, we've had 22 positive cases, 149 staff negative cases, 171 employee tested, continuous counts, 22 recovered cases, 0 staff member active positive cases, and 1 staff member absent pending results. And then 1 total staff member absent, that's another, and then 24 employees tested on August 19th, and 0 tests pending. Another one of the things I was going to kind of talk to you a little bit, we got a little flyer, and this is back on the voting deal. I'm so glad they opened up the mountain area so they're not having to do the mail-in or travel. Up at the Tays, in Mexico, yeah, this is up at, not the Tays, but the university up here, the college, they're going to do they're going to do a YouTube presentation on how this is supposedly, the voting and stuff is supposed to work. So we'll see how that goes off. Let's see. And that's pretty much about all I really got to say. Commissioner Griffin?
I'm good. I don't have anything.
Commissioner Bees?
I already spoke about it during communication about the garbage on the hill, and I will be making some communication there with Ralph just to see if there's not something that we could do during holiday and hunting season, because this is an issue that, while we haven't seen it this bad, it is an every year conversation that we have, so there's got to be some way to fix it.
Well, if the whole mountain range up there looked like Bluff Springs did?
It did. They took a picture of a dumpster in Cloudcroft on the main street, and it was just, you almost couldn't see the dumpster from all the trash bags on it, in it, and around it. And that's just unacceptable. Our mountains are beautiful. Like I said, I would have left it in my own vehicle and taken it to wherever it was I call home, or the next available location, a gas station, wherever, you know, but I would have never left trash outside of the dumpster like that. It doesn't comprehend. I don't understand that.
Gwen, just FYI for you, Tom came back and he told me that the right-of-way for on Riata Road, that is a 50-foot right-of-way. So,
I'm sorry, this is
Turn-
Mr. Lamprey.
Turn it off.
You know,
Turn it on mute.
So it's 50 feet?
it is a 50-foot right-of-way. That is telling you that, I said that wrong. It's a 50-foot wide area.
Easement.
That's 25 foot from center line to the edge of the road is the right-of-way. So what he's asking is for a 50-foot, correct me if I'm wrong, Michael, but 50-foot from center line easement?
My understanding was he was wanting to make sure.
Here, he says the 50 foot was the width suggested by Mr. E. As you can see in his emails to me, I did not choose the width. Simply need enough right-of-way to enter and exit onto Riata Road. He just now wrote this.
Okay, so what that really is from center line of road to the edge of the easement is 25 feet. That easement of Riata Lane, okay, all the way through. So we can't go any more than what he has that easement to get onto his property. And again, we are going to give him accessibility to get to his property.
Okay. And that's what he's asking for. I mean, he's asking for just the right-of-way to get on, to be able to get onto his land.
Well, he's going to get that.
Okay. I'm going to send him and tell him you are going to get that.
Okay. So that brings us to executive. Okay, at this time, I can make a motion to hold an executive session citing specific exemptions and to state the matters to be discussed. Okay, I'm going to make a motion to hold it under the NMSA 1978 S10-15-1 H to discuss only the items on the executive session. So we need to take a roll call to.
I'll second.
Aye. Here, yes.
Yes.
Here.
All right, appreciate everybody coming in.
Good to see everyone.
Commissioner Matherly, would you just take 5 minutes to sign this document?
I can come back, Commissioner, but I do need
We can
the
sign real
chairman's
quick.
signature on these if I could. I'll get you while you're here.
Yeah.
The three of us or just me?
Just you.